Friends, if you're looking for real old school laughs, you're in for a treat because we've got them right here. Flip City Magazine. Remember Mad Magazine? Then it went woke? Well, don't worry. Flip City has no chance of going woke. That's right. 4 times a year, you'll get an actual printed magazine full of jokes, stories, comics, and more, all about today's pop culture, entertainment, and woke politics. Flip City takes terrible entertainment trends we love to hate with hilarious parodies of Lord of the Rings, Stranger Things, The Walking Dead, Star Trek, Hunters, and more. Trust me when I say there is nothing else like Flip City on the market. So subscribe today. It will be delivered in print, or you can even get it digitally if you're one of those wacky Zoomers. Either way, follow our link and sign up today, and if you put in midnight, you get an extra 10% off. Check out Flip City Magazine today. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Midnight's Edge in the morning. It's Friday. That's right. We're almost all the way through the first month of the year. We have with us the boss man, Andre, here. How you doing?
I'm doing excellent. Greetings, everyone. It's the end of a week, and what a week it's been for Disney.
Has.
What a year it's been for Disney, and the year is just getting started.
Indeedy do. We also have with us Paul Chato. How you doing?
I'm good. I vowed that I was going to cut down the number of videos I was making, and I've already done one a day. Like
it's addicting, isn't it?
No, but a news item comes up, and you go, I want to write. I want to write it. I love writing. Like
Exactly.
to me, I'm addicted to writing. I can sit and write all day. I actually have to stop myself from writing.
And what's so cool is that now you actually have a venue to do something with
True.
that, I think.
2 venues. So anyways, listen,
Two venues.
great to be here. It's freezing cold outside. And
It looks like you traveled back to 1972 and killed somebody's couch in their den and made a jacket out of it.
What do you think?
It looks pretty schmazzy.
It looks classy. Yeah. Classy is the word for it.
Thank you.
Like my grandma's couch just died. Yeah.
It's a very warm wool. It's a
Looks
Harris
nice.
tweed.
Yeah.
Harris tweed. It's
I'm
nice.
waiting for the day that you come in wearing a like a Lorax skin or something.
Yeah. See, this is what I didn't understand about the whole, like, when they had the Maleficent thing and then they did the Cruella movie. It's like, and her whole motivation was her parents were knocked off a cliff by a herd of Dalmatians. It's like,
dumb.
How retarded are you? Like, did you not watch the movie? She didn't care if they were Dalmatians or not. They could have been poodles as long as they were spotted. It just didn't matter. She just wanted something that was odd.
But
right? She wanted something that was one of a kind.
Everyone
like you
has
got
to have
the couch.
Every evil
jacket.
person has to have a motivation
and be a victim.
Not really. I mean, they just want something like that. Like, I just want a weird jacket like that. That's what I want.
Right. So,
and if you got the money and the crazy brains to do it, yeah.
Let's go around a bunch of houses looking for that perfect couch, speckled couch, and then we kill it and we have the coats out.
Yeah, think of that. She could have saved all those Dalmatians. We also have Culture Casino with us. How you doing?
Hey, morning, everybody. Good to see you. I'm glad to be here, although for a brief period of time. This should be interesting. I'm very excited.
Funny, that's what Jesus said too.
Well, thank you. Good company.
Also with us this morning, I don't know if you've been on the morning show yet, but we have Price of Reason with us. He's often with us on Midnight's Edge After Dark. But welcome to the morning show, my friend.
Thank you. I think it's my second appearance here.
Maybe.
I was here some time back with the Ninja Turtles or something.
That's correct. Yes, I was going to say, I think maybe we had you before, but couldn't remember for sure.
Welcome
back,
cute.
then.
Thanks, Paul. You too.
My grandma made him on the couch that you killed.
Hey, you know what? We match.
We
Look
were
at
the same
this.
material.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Pretty close, yeah.
Same material.
He does though. He looks like a calamari your grandma would make you. Be like, baby, I couldn't afford the Star Wars toy you want, so I just made you this one.
In other words, price of reason. Better watch out in case Paul wants a tie with that.
Yeah.
I can give you my crown instead.
Okay.
Well, at least he's not on Star Trek Discovery, because then he'd probably be eaten.
Oh,
Because like the closest thing to the calamaris on Star Trek, that was the thing, is that they would eat them. Did you watch Discovery at all, Paul?
me? Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't
So Doug
the
Jones's character,
the
yeah,
USS
his
Daycare
species.
is what I called the ship.
But that was
Yeah.
the whole thing between him and Michelle Yao, is that the dimension that she comes from, they eat their
Yeah.
kind there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, they eat his kind in our dimension too. Like the Doug Jones character, he was
Oh,
the
yeah,
one
they
that
just-
escaped,
that's true.
not to be eaten. But they were dinner in any universe.
I have to
This
be
is true.
honest, I gave up after season 1.5. So
Well, I'm surprised you made it that far.
well,
Yeah, so basically, you gave up just before the appearance of the Enterprise crew. Then,
right.
yeah,
Mm,
That's
yeah. Actually, you made it about almost. I think I made it a little farther than you, but not much. Because I got to a point where I literally just told Andre, I cannot do this anymore.
I had friends who
Like, I
worked on
cannot
the
watch this
show,
crap anymore.
and they were telling me about the adventures on the show. Wonderful
Well,
cast.
it was like doing mental damage to me at that point. Like, I was getting depressed from it.
we had like a hilarious thing where we made Mr. H watch an episode just to see him react and laugh at it. It was quite fun. It's up on the channel in the Star
Yeah,
Trek
my friend was saying that the directors gave up trying to get Burnham to act like the Vulcan she was supposed to inhabit, even though she wasn't Vulcan.
Because she was raised that way.
They were
Yeah.
raised that way, and then they said as an actress she couldn't do it, so they just gave up. The directors gave up giving her direction to, you were raised by Vulcans. And
I mean,
Yeah.
imagine spending like 20, 30 years with people and never once telling them you had a sister. But then again, they never once told him he had a half psychotic
hey,
brother.
my
either.
parents didn't tell me I was
So-
Jewish until I was 18. So there
Well,
you go.
They didn't want you to have
Everyone
that
has
white
secrets,
privilege.
Mom.
They didn't want you to have all that white privilege. That's why, Paul.
That. No, the Jews are white adjacent.
Well, that's my whole point. You got the white privilege, so.
That's right.
Yeah.
I
Anyway,
thought the word was
moving on.
adjunct.
Yeah. Now, when we have all the panelists introduced, we have quite a lot to talk about.
There'll
Here.
be adjuncts to it.
Yeah.
Indeed. And we also have a couple of super chats.
Let's
so
get into
before
those.
we get into it, we have actually one that's going to lead into it pretty nicely. We have Dr. Longdongler sending us a £1.99 super sticker. So everyone, please smash that thumbs up. Dr. Longdongler has also been a member for 26 months, which is brilliant. And then we have, leading us into the first topic, Sean Cook, who's been a member for 17 months, saying, "Hey guys, ready for my daily dose of the Disney dumpster fire."
It's the
Indeed.
gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, and I think it's going to continue because basically it's been quite the 36 or so hours here, because it started on Wednesday or Thursday, depending on which time zone you are in, when Disney formally rejected Nelson Peltz's bid for board seats. We obviously knew they would, but this was when they made it formal.
Official.
They issued a statement and everything, where they basically encouraged all of Disney's shareholders to vote against Nelson Peltz and that other company who just issued some other stuff, even though they're friends of Iger, just so that he has the opportunity to say, no, look, it's not about them. It's just because we have the best board in existence. Because that's basically Disney's argument, that the Disney board right now, they are so diverse and they are so talented and they're so good at what they do that no one should muck with that in any way, shape, or form. Just back off and trust them, and everything is going to be awesome, says the very people who have led the company down to oblivion. But of course, this rejection didn't last long, didn't it? Because Nelson Peltz he shot back, didn't he, Culture? Can you take us through it?
Yeah, on this CNBC interview, which you're going to see an in detail video coming out from me, and I think a lot of people that are in our sphere are going to be talking about this for a while.
I think I may say something about it as well. Carry on.
Yeah. I'm going to suggest that this is the way a businessman approaches things. A very successful one at that. He was reflecting an air of confidence because he has more information than the person interviewing him. He has more information than, well, it seemed yesterday, than the Disney company had about just how much control he has via proxy of the company. He also has his facts and figures and pretty much has thought about every possible question you could ask him in advance, because he's asked them of himself and of the goal that he is pursuing, which is to turn Disney back into a successful family brand company and, away from what they seem to be now. Throughout this interview, and hopefully we're going to watch a little bit of it, but throughout this interview, he constantly praises the person that's asking him these questions. Well, I'm glad you asked me that question, because he's already prepared for the answer. And again, the interviewer in this case is not anywhere close to being prepared to deal with this. And what's really funny is there's also a subtle takedown of Jim Cramer, who I think is one of the most ridiculous floppy heads out there. So there's actually a fund out there that actually goes the other way. Now, on this channel, or even on my channel, or any channel I'm on, we do not give financial advice, but this is basically an extension of a campaign that Peltz started back in 2023, which, I actually still have the PDF for. And that particular campaign highlights that the Disney company was headed the wrong direction. And what often happens, and this is just a little background, folks, what often happens is when Peltz is interested in something, and he's interested in a company and turning it around, he will send them kind of a white paper, which is basically an outline of what he sees them doing wrong, places they could correct, and suggestions that they should implement in order to change things and turn the company around. He does this because he's what's known as an activist investor. So he's very well aware of what the primary markets are for an individual company, and he's very well aware of what that market sea change is at the point in time. So he will look at something like Disney and say, okay, this is where they're falling down. This is where other companies are at that would be comparables. And this is how they should be competing in the marketplace. And then he goes from there and then starts asking questions about, well, why aren't they more successful? He's done this thousands of times, probably over the course of his lifetime. He's been doing this kind of thing for a long time. And not only that, he has personal investment in the Disney company. So he has skin in the game. His fund has skin in the game, and I think that that's a pretty decent introduction for what we are about to take a look at.
I think he has about $3 billion worth of skin in the game.
Yeah,
and for that kind of investment, you're going to be pretty prepared, more prepared than anyone asking questions.
Indeed.
Now, this is actually in the middle of. Well, I'm not even sure how long this interview went on for. Mike said that they held half of it behind a paywall. They only dropped 2 clips on their YouTube channel. But the first one is just kind of introing things, a lot of what Culture said here. Peltz kind of saying that the company's in trouble, a little bit about what he wanted to do. And of course, this was brought upon us because yesterday morning, the news broke that they had rejected Nelson Peltz's proposal, as we all had anticipated they would.
Yeah. And again, this is all in response to his reinvigoration of his campaign called Restore the Magic. So, yeah.
Well, it might as well be Make America Great Again.
True.
So yeah, Andre, do you want to watch a little bit of this?
Yeah, go for it. So let's play this.
It's David. I mean, listen, I feel like it's deja vu because we had this conversation with you a little over a year ago when you were trying to get on the board, and then you decided not to, and they're saying the same thing they said then too, which is they question the relevant experience that you have in terms of.
He decided not to.
Business.
I don't know about that. I don't think they let him on the board, just like this time, if I remember correctly.
Well, no. What he did was that he backed away and gave them all.
Oh, that's right. You're right.
Yeah, come back stronger later.
course, say that they have an incredibly well-stocked board of people who are fully capable of holding the management team accountable. And again, what's the plan? Like, other than saying they got to do better, what's the plan?
David, you asked it just like I wanted you to. I mean, as written. First of all, this board, from Bob to every independent director, has underperformed the S&P on every measure. 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. How much more do we have to go? How long do we have to continue to suffer with this great board?
I want to fire whoever their sound man is, because I get it that the interviewers are on like the floor of the stock exchange. The least they could do is turn down their fucking mics when Nelson's talking. Anyway, sorry.
The way they said I have no media experience, I don't claim to have any. But I would tell you, I don't think they have much media experience. They broke a record this year. You know that the last 5 movies in a row were losers. Now, if that comes with media experience.
Now, let me repeat that for real quick. Oh, you dirty bastard. Of course it's going to do this now.
Can I step in here?
Yeah.
And just say that the one thing that everyone in Hollywood has more experience with than anything else is failure.
Yes.
The success to failure ratio
You're not
is
wrong.
very low.
Yeah. Well, as I say, it always takes a million things to go right to make a successful film and only one thing to go wrong.
Right. Exactly.
That's before it even gets finished.
Right.
Yeah, so
exactly right. But the fact is, Disney had a good run, and now that run is over, and Nelson is absolutely correct.
This year. You know that the last 5 movies in a row were losers. Now, if that comes with media experience, I want a guy who doesn't have a media experience.
He's great.
So David, let's deal with facts. The company has underperformed. I made a run at them last year. They promised they were going to improve things. I took them at their word. Things got worse. The stock went down. Results got worse. Okay, so no more. I can't continue to give them more opportunities.
Understood. Although, to be fair, don't you need to be fair to compare it to the overall entertainment group? I mean, this is a unique period in time in which, as you well know, there are headwinds and changes that are generational in terms of trying to deal with the move to direct to consumer and make it profitable. So, comparing to the S&P may be a bit unfair, don't you think?
Oh, really? I mean, that's what shareholders who buy stock compare it to, David. That's a good point.
He's an idiot.
Look at Netflix. Netflix last reporting period did $30 billion in sales, 20% margin. Okay.
Wow.
Then you have Warner's. They did $30 billion in sales in media with a 20% margin.
Oh.
Disney, the big daddy, did $50 billion in sales, a 6% margin.
6%.
That's the competition. Those are the guys who are all suffering through a change from features to streaming. Some have been able to cope with it beautifully. Plus, this company, Bob said it in 2015 and 16, that streaming was a real issue. It was coming. It was here to. It was going to continue to grow. He said that back then. And then what happened? They did nothing. And look what happened to ESPN. The crown jewel of Disney continued to lose subscribers, lose value, and now they're negotiating deals for ESPN out of total weakness. They could have made deals on ESPN in 15, 16, 17, 18 when they saw this streaming thing coming. They said it directly and did nothing about it.
Missed that, but
yeah, that's a big deal, right? Like culture, because what's going on right now is they just made a deal with
the NFL.
The NFL.
It's not done yet, but they are very close to signing it. Yes, true.
And what he's talking about here is they're doing it now when they're acting out of desperation instead of acting when they had the power in their hands.
Yeah.
And getting a better deal.
Well, and not only that, they're acting out of desperation. It's an entirely different way to negotiate. Your opponent knows that you are at your weakest point possible. When all of this was coming down the pipe and everybody saw it coming, streaming was going to slowly take over. He's talking about a long time again. If you're talking about 2015, and we're in 2024, how many years is that?
Almost a decade. But he's not wrong. We've been talking about the streaming wars since. When did we do that video, Andre?
2018.
Yeah.
Okay. So these guys have known about this shit.
Yeah.
Bob was so gung-ho on Disney Plus. I mean,
well, it's always about known factors, right? Here's the thing: we knew streaming was growing. That was a known factor. It's been a constant growing threat for a long time. We also knew that sports rights get continually more expensive. The American public consumption of sports was, only rising at that point in time. If you go back to 2016, 2015, that was growing. You were watching it in real time. You were watching ad revenues at records. You were watching, viewership at records. The widespread mass appeal of sports, whether it be the most, popular sport here in the US, which is the NFL, or even like, mediocre, bottom tier sports like the NHL. Haha, got my dig in it, Paul. They
hey
no, but anyway, the whole, and I was just kidding about hockey. I love hockey.
no it's okay, it's right up there with curling.
Anyway, the whole point being that was the point at which to negotiate with these leagues for, a slice of coverage to reduce the sports rights fees, because if you have buy-in from a corporation, you're going to get preferential treatment on the acquisition of rights. In fact, it may come, part of their slice could have been negotiated as, the rights, outright rights that you would have to not pay for as part of the package. They can't go and get those kinds of deals now. And so again, you had all these known factors that Disney at the time didn't take advantage of. And as Peltz points out, at the time back then, ESPN was the crown jewel. It wasn't the ABC propaganda network and all of the associated networks that came along with it, the Capital Cities acquisition or any of that. It wasn't their cable channels. That wasn't the thing that was the future. The future was streaming. The known factors of sports, and the value would only increase. Those were known factors. They have a lot of known factors in Disney, and they never take advantage of them. They never under Iger's leadership took advantage of any of their opportunities. And we're not even to the theme parks or the theatrical releases, which Peltz has already spoken about. We're talking about the thing that was the bread and butter at one point in time, prior to, John Skipper becoming a lunatic and getting fired. But had they not gone the direction that they were, all of these things would have been more valuable. Again, known factors. It's one of the things you really do have to study when you're looking at the future of your company, or even one that you're interested in investing in. Wow, I talked for a long time.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And the one thing we need to add to that is, and I don't know how long they knew it, but obviously would have been their finger would have been on the pulse, but terrestrial and cable subscribers are plummeting.
Yeah, cord cutting. Yeah.
The thing is, sports is one of the only things that people still want to watch live. It still has value. Most other stuff, it's streaming, it's a competition. People are investing money in all these projects. Here, there's a game, and people want to watch it live, and it's one of the only things that exists like that. So I tend to agree with Peltz on the way Disney handled this.
What's really odd is the demise of terrestrial television came at the hands of the terrestrial television providers. They did it to themselves, and they also did it to themselves when it comes to the losing streak that they're on when it comes to streaming. Yeah, really, honestly, all they had to do was keep away from the initial motivations and movements of Hulu. Had they just said, okay, well, you aren't going to get this TV show until a month after it initially premieres on one of the networks. So if you had FOMO, you could have preserved FOMO and kept it so that you didn't end up with your TV show the next day over on Hulu. Same thing goes with almost anything else. It's a scarcity is an important weapon. It's what Disney utilizes in their theme parks. But the terrestrial, all they had to do was that. I mean, honestly, you're not competing with Netflix then. Netflix is a rerun company, or at least it was back then. Right. So,
aside from what original material they did have,
and what Price already broke down is live's the thing. I mean, Price Reads is 100% right. It's live is the only thing driving network television right now, terrestrial linear television. That's it.
Well, and I said it before, he is right, because they waited too damn long to make this deal. As we've been saying for the last few years, ESPN is the one thing that they have besides the parks that has always been extremely profitable. And then what did we learn during that one earnings call? Like ESPN takes up like what, a third of all of their, or more than a third of all of the money they make, basically comes from that. it looked like from the breakdown, because the parks are in such bad shape right now. Their movies, as he just pointed out here, haven't been generating anything. Honestly, I'd say you have to go back to probably 2019 was the last year that Disney had a successful year. Maybe what year did Endgame come out? Because that was 2019.
2019
right?
would be the last, certainly for the entertainment division.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
and then 2020.
And what else did they do in 2019? They dropped Disney. Wasn't that the same year they started Disney Plus, or soon thereafter, 2020? Because they tried to rush it out for because they tried to rush it before it was ready because COVID happened.
Yeah. And to be fair, it was off to a good start, but they weren't able to follow it up because all their content sucked.
Well, and that's been all these streamers' problems. HBO Max, the only thing that they ever have that's worth a shit is stuff they get from HBO proper, it seems like. Netflix seems to be one of the only companies that can come up with original material. Amazon, sort of, with a few of their shows. But, I mean, they're not nearly on the level of what Netflix is as far as originality. Like, none of these other channels have had breakout successes except for Peacock, which got their success from Yellowstone, which is actually a Paramount property, which is done on Peacock anyway now because they're going to move it to Paramount as soon as they reboot it. So,
yeah, and again, I mean, obviously, there's a particular actor that killed Yellowstone going forward.
We got that problem as well. Yeah,
could have had a 10-year run. He has a history of blowing up his career every 5 to 10 years. So.
Yeah, we've talked about this. This is the Kevin Costner going to cause. Okay, like he's just going to do it. He's just. But anyway, let's get back to this crap here.
We do get a kind of a flavor of what Disney
feels
about the person you'd like
Dear
to
Lord.
You, Mr. Rizzullo. It does sound like he was a stalking horse for the largest shareholder, Mr. Perlmutter. I don't find that wrong, but they do make it sound like that's something wrong there, and that Bob Iger broke Mr. Perlmutter's heart when Mr. Rizzullo was basically fired, passed over, I should say. Is Mr. Rizzullo, is he better than, does he know more than, James Gorman about the entertainment business?
Of Disney? Yeah. For sure. I know James. I don't know how many times James has been to the park. I don't know what experience James has with Disney. And oh, by the way, James, who I like very much, was given a board seat. He didn't have to have a plan for the company. He did not.
Do you have a white paper that I can see? Do you have a white paper that I can see?
Oh, there. He didn't have to set a goal for the company. He got invited on the board. Okay?
Yeah, he did.
And I've got to go through these bells and whistles. Hey, guys, I'm the largest shareholder in this company. The largest independent ship. Listen to me.
I want to come back to that for a second, Nelson.
Shareholder in this company.
But are you? I mean, like Perlmutter is. I still don't fully understand.
Really? Let me
ask the question. Because I am curious about this from a fund perspective. Right, you know, 25+ million of the shares that you are voting, so to speak, are Ike's, and then Trian owns. My understanding is 7+ million.
Try again.
What's the relationship with Perlmutter? Is he paying you? Are you getting fees somehow? Like, you're doing an awful lot here that really wouldn't seem to actually add the economic value for Trian holders, given your relatively small ownership of Disney when you take out Perlmutter stock.
David, I am thrilled you asked that question. Okay, thrilled. Okay, because every fund around has investors. Whether it's a pension fund, doesn't make a difference. Whether it's a sovereign fund, and whether it's a bunch of individuals, what the hell's the difference? It's money. These guys want to make money. That's why they give money to funds. We just saved one step. Ike Perlmutter gave us some shares. He said, "Hey guys, you figure it out. I don't want to come back to the company. I don't want to be an officer. I don't want my job back. Okay, I just want to make money on my stock because, oh, by the way, when I'm gone, it's all going to hurt."
Right, but that's not Trian fund money that went into buying his stock. You didn't buy it from him. He's lumped it in with your ownership stake.
This is a specious argument.
If a guy gives me a check or he gives me shares, I have the full right to vote it, to do whatever I want with it. What's the difference than if CalPERS gives me $100 million or they give me shares in a company? There's no difference. It's all under my control.
Stop stuffing
so they cut him off
bags
there,
of ice into your cooler.
I do like how well he knows his shit.
Yep.
Well, yeah, he's clearly been around for a while.
Yeah, and he also noted a company that obviously has handed over proxies to him that isn't listed anywhere right now. So, so that's an interesting thing. But personally, Ike Perlmutter owns 32 million shares of stock, which tells you how out of date the information was of the interviewer had. And of course, Jim Cramer, who is usually out of date on information. But it like I said, I mean, he is somebody who's informed. This would be Peltz, informed, and has already thought about everything you're about to ask him multiple times. So, and yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and one of the things I hate about financial reporting is the non-zeroed graph.
Sure.
Hate it.
It's
completely misleading.
Yeah, and again, I mean, look, when he's pointing out the trends versus the market, and he talks specifically about funds and things like that. This is when I wish I had somebody like Mexican Iron Man or Jonas around, because there's a lot to there's a lot to unpack there. The company has underperformed pretty dramatically. That's one of Nelson's primary concerns going back to last year. They looked at the 10-year share price performance and found it lacking, sitting at a near 8-year low. It's headed back downwards now as it is, and it's only getting worse. Again, the market ebbs and flows. Again, we're not giving financial advice here. I'm going to keep saying that because I don't want anybody to clip it. But they don't have very clearly delineated long-term goals. They have a lot of very vague things that they say at Disney, vague promises, vague announcements, and nothing that they will be held accountable for if they don't perform. And one of the things that obviously they were looking for, and I thought was very irresponsible, was the provision of a dividend. I thought that was incredibly irresponsible at the time. The company is in one of the weakest positions it's been. It had a lot of financial pressure on it to finish or complete its deal with Hulu, and yet they still announced a dividend and then provided one afterwards. That's a very irresponsible leadership right there, to do something that you weren't in the position to do. At least it's not fiscally responsible. It's a negligence of your fiduciary duty, which is again another thing that Peltz has been pointing out along the way. And he's had a lot of success. If you look at what he's done with Wendy's and other companies that he's acquired, he then become, well, he was the executive chairman of the board for Wendy's. I'm not sure if he still is, but he has a lot of experience here. In yesterday's PR statement, that was the preliminary proxy statement, which is a document that has to be provided in advance of any of these kinds of moves, he has to clearly delineate his position, what he controls, et cetera, et cetera. What he's sitting at now, even if it's 4 or 5% of total Disney control, even if he's sitting down there where State Street is and is an institutional investor, he still controls individually more proxy than anybody else that's not an institution. And he's not given any form of deference as the single individual shareholder, because he is. I know Ike Perlmutter has about 24, but 32 is more than 24 last time I checked. And again, we're talking in the millions. So, like I said, if you read through his last year's Restoring the Magic proposal, which was quite in detail, originally made confidential. By the way, all the papers that he provides via PR Newswire or anywhere else were initially confidential white papers that were sent to the company he's trying to help. In this case, it was Disney. And then he reveals that publicly if they don't play ball, listen, at least hear him out, and maybe act on some of his things, which is one of the reasons he went away. So, and here we go. This is from Jonas. Yeah.
I think he's playing a long game. I think that he knows that this thing isn't going to resolve itself quickly, but if at least he can go to the public, to these type of news stations, and start pushing his narrative and continue to do it as Disney loses, he's hoping that over time, playing the long game, maybe some people that are supporting Disney now, especially kind of everyday investors that don't know a lot about all these internal politics, maybe they'll hear more and more about it and they'll start shifting in his direction.
Yeah, well, especially long term being until this spring, because that is when Disney's shareholder meeting is. Because the ones it's trying to reach, obviously, are all of Disney's shareholders, every last one of them, who isn't Vanguard, State Street, and BlackRock, and all of Iger's friends who have invested recently just to help push him. But everyone else who actually wants to see some return on their Disney investment, they have no reason to back Iger and his board. They just have to be informed of just how badly Iger has done. Because every single time Iger speaks to the shareholders, it's just, I'm not going to say that it's lies, but it's certainly spin, trying to explain away every failure and trying to make it, oh, this was just a disaster that was going to happen anyway. And it's happened all across the industry. Everyone is struggling. We're actually doing better than most others because I am so brilliant and so is my board. When the opposite is the reality.
Yeah, and Andre, that's right, because we were being very nice to Disney, and Paul Muller was in that part of the interview we watched when comparing them to the S&P, and their performance compared to the S&P. Whereas if you compare them to their peer group, Disney's far behind their peer group in performance. And I think that's the biggest point of all, is that it is as bad as it sounds, when compared against the market. When you compare them against their peers, it's far worse. I mean, the peers are outperforming the market, and Disney
big time, yeah,
isn't. It's just very odd.
Disney are doing uniquely bad, and they shouldn't. They should be the one dominating everything. With their catalog, there's no reason why they shouldn't be the top of everything always. And that they're not is exclusively down to their own mismanagement.
They hate their own catalog.
Unfortunately, yeah, unless it's their own catalog that they made themselves in the last 10 years. Yeah.
Correct.
It really does seem like that. But let's move on to what the audience has to say in these super chats here, because I do believe we have said pretty much what there is to say at this point in time. Now it's up to Disney's shareholders, but this obviously isn't going to stop, because Peltz is on a quest. To win over Disney shareholders' hearts and minds and wallets. That's the most important thing. Going through these super chats about this specifically, we have Packing Protons Games and Animation says for $5. If Peltz does a hostile takeover of Disney, he needs to have Buckethead, aka Doomcock, in his first board meeting to set the tone. That would be fun. I don't think he needs him though, but that certainly would be fun, especially since they already kind of made the villain out of him on all our behalf in She-Hulk season 1. I don't know why I say season 1, since there's not going to be a season 2. Then we have Hollywood Apocalypse, who wonders for 14 South African rands. If Peltz is on the board, is Rasulo next CEO? This is a good question, because here's what I think. I think that as it is right now, or certainly up until this point, Peltz wanted two people to come onto the board. But I'm not so sure that that is still going to be the case by the time we come to summer and the shareholder meeting where the shareholders actually vote that is the case anymore. I think they're going to make a play for, we're going to wipe out the entire board and replace every last one of them. Certainly, that is what I hope would happen. And when they talk about this plan of succession, what they're really saying is not that they want to plan for the eventual replacement of Iger. That's a PR-friendly version of it. I think what they really mean is we need to get this guy out now because he's destroying the company, which means they're going to need a new replacement. Rasulo would be uniquely qualified for this culture. You think there's any chance that actually might happen if Peltz were to win out?
It makes a lot of sense. If anybody knows where the bodies are buried, it's Rasulo. That's first and foremost. And while he doesn't have knowledge of the last few years, he knows, again, where everything was going and how they were managing the money going at that point in time. Disney was in a great position going back to when he was with the company, but he is very well aware of those bodies. Now, those bodies include Shady Creek and how they were dealing with the finances surrounding that. There's a lot of financial exposure that they have if they were to be investigated. And I think Rasulo would be the wise choice because he would be able to get out in front of it and point some fingers as to, what was going on, or maybe hush it all up. He's got a lot of paths forward. It makes a lot of sense because of his depth of understanding when it comes to the parks business, which is their most important business now, as they have many competitors from outside of media now competing with them in the streaming space. So Rasulo has, again, pretty much experience in almost all the pertinent areas of corporate operation, not to mention he's a pretty good strategic mind financially. So I would anticipate that he'd be a wonderful choice for CEO and chairman. I wouldn't imagine that would be something that Peltz would hand out right away, probably make it as a reward to be chairman of the board. But I do imagine that Rasulo would be a good choice and candidate for CEO. Although I could make arguments for the other two guys that essentially are with the company now from Candle Media, between Mayer and Staggs. But I think Rasulo is probably a good choice for the next CEO.
Yeah.
Well, and what's funny about
what's
funny about this whole move is that this has just been indicative of what Disney has dealt with the whole time. They're like the child that keeps sticking their finger in the light socket, right? They don't learn. They fucked with Florida, and then DeSantis is like, well, that nice little Reedy Creek deal you got going on here, it'd be a fucking shame if something happened to it, wouldn't it? Something happened to it. And then now you got...
What's funny is, Tom, I just wanted to add to that. What's funny is the state really was losing patience with Disney. They've been losing patience with Disney for a couple of decades when it comes to the way that operated. So,
I'm just saying the timing of all this coming down at once is like a house of cards for them.
Yeah. No, keep going. Yeah, I'm sorry.
And then, of course, now you've got Nelson Peltz, who they've been fighting with for the last year because he's just like, where's my fucking money? Yeah. And he's speaking for every other, person who owns any significant amount of stock who's like not seen any dividends from what is supposed to be, as he put it, basically, the big boys on the block when it comes to entertainment. And that's what the problem is here. And now if he comes in and he takes over like he's been threatening to, basically, and we've talked about it before, I've brought it up a few times, it wouldn't take many moves for him to probably pull off a hostile takeover. And it'd been the first hostile takeover we've seen in probably a decade, maybe
long time,
longer than that. But anyway, go ahead, Culture.
No, just to add to that is that Peltz is an old school guy. He's like that professor that requires you to do your work, right? He's going to read over your paper and make sure that it's factually and correct and accurate, and that you're not making things up. The problem is that Disney has been a spin machine when it comes to the way things are running. For a long time, they're slick and they're all surface level, but they lack substance. So when Disney says strategically investing in our experience business to turbocharge growth, that's as vague as you can possibly get when you're talking about the parks and experiences group. You can't get more vague than that. Whereas a leader, a person that is looking for some accountability, which is something that has been absent in many corporations, especially as part of the Dow, the S&P, et cetera, a lot of these things, they're all flash and dash. Where Peltz is asking for the Parks Group to execute a clear vision for parks, targeting at least high single-digit operating income growth to ensure adequate returns on a $60 billion capex, which was announced in the last annual that they were going to spend to turbocharge the parks over the next decade. By the way, that's a reduction in capex for park performance across the board over that period of time, especially in light of inflation. It's a significant reduction. So again, Peltz is asking for very specific things. Disney is all surface level, and that's that's how you get kids to perform. You set specific metrics. If they don't, they fail. And to be fair, Tom, as you pointed out, Iger's a big kid. He's never had his feet held to the fire, and he keeps sticking his finger in the light socket.
Indeed. And as last call with Troy Pacelli says with $5 here, 1711 watching and only 426 thumbs up. Hit the like button, folks. Yes, please do. you haven't already. In fact, we got 1755 watching at this very moment. Hit that like button, share out the link, let everybody know we're live. We got a few more, or at least one more Disney thing to talk about here. And then we're going to move on to some other news as well. We got Ryan Bannon sending in 5 Canadian. It says if Peltz takes over, you think he would reinvigorate late night talk shows to what they were, at least for ABC, when they were funny. Ryan, I don't know that this would even go within his purview. This is the kind of question we used to get when it would come to Zasloff, and it's like, he can't micromanage everything. So like, this is something that's like way down the totem pole of his problems. He's more worried about the overall grander picture of the company at this point, right, Culture?
Yeah, it's a high level view. That's the thing. You take the widest, and Paul can actually speak to this probably more than I can. But
they might sell ABC before Peltz takes over anyway. But go ahead, sorry.
No, you're right. But I mean, that's look, somebody at that level, even CEO level, even, somewhere even down lower in the C-suite, they're big picture people. They're supposed to hire the right people, put them in place, give them directions on what they want to see, set specific metrics, and then evaluate if those are successful or not, or if those people are actually performing the duties that they were given. That's the bigger picture. So it's the way management is structured, and it's the Peltz, the last thing he's going to do is look at something that small, that myopic. But with proper leadership, yes, all of these things could recover.
Eventually,
I don't know, Paul, I got to ask you, because you should know this. Obviously, nobody's going to pay that minute attention to those details, but it comes down to the leadership that's put in place, right?
Well, I have always opined on the complete lack of vision on how to tie all their different divisions together to create synergy. The fact that they've got a broadcast wing, the fact that they've got cable shows. A lot of these companies have cable shows also, and they've got the streaming and the movies, and they don't seem to be doing anything with them in total. This is the thing that has always been perplexing to me. This is also part of what I call siloing. Right. Each of the groups do not want to give any time to any other group. They don't want to lose their own marketing budgets to something else. They don't want a Disney Plus show on ABC because even though they've now done that with Ms. Marvel, because that is not part of their group. They need to blow that up. This is like the disease of a marketing company, where the direct marketing people, anyone who goes to direct marketing people, they go, oh yeah, we'll solve your problem, even though the best solution is a TV ad, because they do not want to send a client off to the TV division.
Well, but that's counter to what Disney used to be. Disney used to be the synergy company. It's what, in fact, that's one of the classes or class sets you could take there at Disney University
back in the day.
Yes,
but it's true. But the moment they got ABC, I saw, well, where, when NBC had the relationship with Disney, there was stuff happening between them all the time. How about Sunday night Disney World with Walt? Yeah. There was more synergy back in the old days between NBC and Disney than between ABC, the company that Disney actually owns.
Compared to now,
I've never understood this.
Yeah, no, you're right. But they don't do that very well. They don't go outward and then focus their business back inward. That you're 100% right. Each of their divisions is at odds. For a vertically stacked company, for a vertically integrated company, they sure don't know how to generate business for each of the other divisions. They used to.
Well, Immortals was on ABC, right?
I would.
Sadly, yes.
Yeah,
I'm saying, like, where is it in the Disney Marvel?
They used to have a little bit more of it. I get what you're saying, Paul. Like back in the day when Disney was, even before Disney and ABC were one and the same, they had a really good relationship. Right. Yeah, like you had, the Sunday nights is when they had the Wonderful World of Disney on ABC.
Yeah, they took it over from NBC.
Yep. And then when they bought ABC, that was just continued that tradition, along with many of the other shows. They started bringing in a lot more Buena Vista shows, right? Like things like Home Improvement and stuff like that were owned by Disney flat out. So like, yeah, there was synergy there for years. And then it kind of started to fall off a little bit. I get what Culture's saying.
Buena Vista cranked out an awful lot of shows, not just for ABC, but they became kind of the Warner Brothers. They cranked out shows for all the networks.
Yes, they did a great job.
But one of their biggest, of course, like I said, was Home Improvement.
Yeah, but where did they lose?
Plenty of shows.
They got rid of that somehow and lost that DNA and didn't know how to apply it to streaming shows like She-Hulk.
Well, they lost people that were integral to making that work in the Eisner era. Where you had, Katzenberg and others go off and create DreamWorks. Because they were frustrated with Eisner, but then Eisner was still directing and launching successful things at the studio level and everywhere else. He was really cranking out material, and again, turning it all inward. This is the thing that's lost on no one. Every single Buena Vista show, Tom will remember this. Every single Buena Vista television show had a trip to Disneyland or Disney World that they would put the TV family on. You know, and they've stopped doing that. I don't know if anybody else has noticed that, but Disney doesn't even promote their parks through their shows anymore.
They even started taking over TGIF because you noticed there was a swing from the Warner Brothers produced shows into the Buena Vista produced shows.
Yeah,
because Perfect Strangers and Family Matters and Full House were all Warner Brothers. Then they started bringing in like Step by Step and all these other shows, Boy Meets World and all that kind of stuff. Those are owned by Disney.
Yep.
So they started taking over TGIF as well, even. So
Yeah, but again, the Capital City acquisition was all the way back in '89, and by '96 they'd taken over television. Literally with Buena Vista and everything else, they'd really started to dominate the '90s, and a lot of that again, Disney always finds a way to grasp failure from the jaws of victory. And, more recently, it's under Iger's leadership on his way out the door when he was going to tell us about his ride of a lifetime. Talk about the hubris. And then, when he came back in thinking he's going to be the rescuer of the company that, supposedly Chapek wrecked in less than 11 months.
During COVID.
I'm like, that dude raised the price of the stock higher than you'd ever seen it.
Yeah.
So come on, bro. Anyway.
I think they're a victim of their own success, and maybe these things just go in cycles. They get all full of themselves, hubris, like Culture just said, and then they make a lot of stupid decisions and dismiss critics and think that they're right about everything. And at the end, the bottom line comes sinking in, and things change.
Bob has made bigger mistakes than Eisner ever did, even during the straight-to-video age, right? I get what you're saying. You're not wrong, Price. I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm just saying, because even then, you could still call it Disney, even if it was cheap Disney. You know what I mean?
I agree with you.
It wasn't until shit started hitting the fan with, the Pixar problems with Eisner, Mars Needs Moms, John Carter, and all that kind of stuff happened.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kid.
The first two Honey, I Shrunk the Kid movies did great, actually.
They did fantastic, yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. The third one, though, that was the one they spent too much money on and went straight to video, and basically, that was Rick Moranis banking a bunch of money for his kids.
Well, and I'll say this because that was still at a time when Disney understood synergy because they were putting the theme park rides, their theme park associated, attractions and things. Those things existed. There was a point in time at Disney World that there were two Honey, I Shrunk the Kids themed areas. There was a film that was in their Magic Eye Theater.
And that was like the Avatar world before Avatar world. Yeah, I remember. Everybody always talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the what do you call it? The Art of Imagination Pavilion that was in Epcot. And then at the same time, just across, several thousand yards away was the Studios Park, which had a playground that was dedicated to Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yep, took the kid in it.
Yeah, and so you had all this stuff, and they understood synergy. And when you walked around the Studios Park, on the light posts, there were little, protrusions, posts that you hung banners of all the shows that they made at ABC Studios and Buena Vista Television. They were hanging on all those light posts. What do they advertise now?
And for me, where they lost it is that they should have combined Honey, I Shrunk the Kids with A Bug's Life.
Yeah.
And so as you're going through the undergrowth, you're actually also seeing the Bug's Life characters. I'm just saying I'm a genius.
Well, you are. And that was very Trumpian of you. Well done.
Yeah.
Best idea
ever. Or compared to some of those people there.
But anyway, great question, Ryan. And that's
your $5 worth.
Yeah, you definitely did. Was there any more? Let's see here. I know there's a couple more here that have to do with Peltz, and then we can move on to the other ones here. Pilgrim Media sends in 2 and says, "Can Peltz get more Confederates to go along?"
Well, it depends on what you
what-
mean by Confederates.
To fight the revenuers.
Well, I think
That's an old
probably
joke,
the
so.
Confederates are the revenuers versus the National Socialists that are in Team Iger.
Yes.
Yes, culture got exactly what I was saying there. So yeah.
I'll say this. I tell you, there's a lot of like-minded investors, people of significant means that are already aligned with Peltz because they really do want a better ROI. In fact, that's one of the most important things. This is happening too frequently, where when companies are ignoring that investors are looking for the fiduciary duty of return on investment to actually be adhered to. And I have a feeling that Disney is really opening themselves up to massive lawsuits, especially in this case when you have somebody who owns as much as 4 or 5% of the company being ignored by the company. That there's a lot of interest in your company to ignore a shareholder of that significance. That's a form of corporate malfeasance.
When this is someone that has a really solid track record, and if they just were to listen to what he was saying, he would fix their problems in a couple of months. And they can claim all the credit for it as a beauty. I mean, it's like a dream situation for, maybe not for Iger, but certainly for everyone else on the board, apart from the 2 that would be evicted. They could claim that they were part in the company's massive overturn.
True.
Yeah.
Mr. Tickletrunk sends in a Rumble rant over on the Rumble side. That's right, we're live on Rumble as well as YouTube. $5 says, "So was this Peltz interview to smear the man by CNBC, or was this part of Peltz's plan to take over? Did a great job putting himself above the board morally. I trusted them."
Here's the thing:
it's propaganda.
It's CNBC, and there's 2 sides of that. Because one is that they are establishment, and so they are naturally anti-activist investor and pro-establishment. But they're also universal. And some of the greatest exposés on Disney we have ever gotten, for instance, this massive piece exposing Iger's mismanagement, the reality behind the Disney board composition, and all the shenanigans that went down behind the scenes at the Iger to JPEG and back to Iger transitioning, and how JPEG really did nothing wrong because it was all Iger all along. That was CNBC. It was them that put that out there. For any new viewers who may not have seen that, we did a separate playlist about that. If you just go to playlists, we got like 3-4 videos out of that expose because it was so big. So yeah, CNBC, the individual reporters, they may be quite pro-Iger and stuff like that. As you can tell from this asshat asking the question, who wasn't even informed. But I do believe that fundamentally the people running CNBC are secretly go Peltz. But don't go too hard, because we don't want to see you succeed too much, because we're quite happy with Disney going down the drain because we're universal.
Well, you got to remember there's other sides to this too. They may not have a problem with him so much, but somebody that doesn't have a problem with him that they kept bringing up was like Perlmutter.
Yeah.
So that's what you got to remember. It's guilt by association. That's the way these people fucking think.
Yeah.
So they may not be pro Disney because they're universal, but they may not necessarily be pro Peltz because now he's got, the shares of the bad guy.
Yeah.
But they didn't want to have the shares.
And Hollywood and the establishment has declared Ike Perlmutter a bad guy because he's a close chum of a certain Orange Man, even though without him there would be no Marvel or no MCU, which is something that I try to make more and more people aware of. If you want to thank someone for the MCU, there's a bunch of people, because it was like a joint venture to make the MCU happen. But the single most important person in that joint venture was Ike Perlmutter.
And speaking of the idiots that we're interviewing, Waltman sends in $4.99, says, "Not financial advice. The golden rule when it comes to Kramer. Whatever he says, do the opposite."
Absolutely.
The Wallman, yes.
Thank you,
Well,
Waltman.
I mean, if you're anything that leaks out to the general public, you do the opposite. I mean, really, all the money has left is off the table because of insider trading, institutional investors. If you get some public organ like a newspaper or Kramer say buy something, sell it. If they say hold, then buy. I mean, it's already that train has left. And I had the opportunity in the 2000s, not because I travel in those circles, but I was advising a billionaire during the dot-com revolution.
Is there something you haven't done?
Yeah, I know. It's amazing. His background's incredible.
Transitioned. He's getting there.
And so I was palling around with people with massive yachts in New York, $500, not just lunches, but they would get a $500 aperitif as part of their lunch, and they would pay my way because I was the technical guy as they were trying to sell this new application to investors. I won't get into the details of it, but I got a taste of the 1%ers, and Peltz is part of that group. And this is something that none of us talk about, that we really, as friendly as he is, as friendly as he conveys himself, and I don't know the man, none of us, and you can say if I'm wrong or not, really haven't experienced that 1%er jets and flying around in personal jets, having $100,000 a year golf course memberships, yachts, things like that. I experienced that for an entire year. It was wild. And that's where Peltz is. And it's so funny that when you're in that rarefied atmosphere, yet you can sound like you're a regular human being. That to me is always amazing.
Again, it's about not getting too disconnected from the world around you, from the things that you're focused on. I think that's how that works. I think that's why, again, you have certain business people that just they seem more human. They're more approachable. Again, it's why people have such great admiration for Musk. I mean, there are some people that don't appreciate him very much or don't like him, but the fact that he communicates with the everyday people in our vernacular or parlance or whatever you want to say, it's
right.
Yeah.
And if you compare to the previous individual who ran GE, who was absolutely inaccessible. I mean, and
well, it's like the tools that are running the American automakers, other than Musk. You have idiots at GM and you have idiots at Ford right now.
Right.
They're losing $36,000 on producing an EV right now. You're like, what are you doing? This is silly.
It's an investment for the future.
Losing money to the tune of billions of dollars. Party on, Wayne. Keep it up, bro. You're going to go out of business.
So I'm just happy to keep my tiny, website business going. But I'm amazed at Peltz and just how easily he can sound like a normal human being. when
and
these people aren't. It's you see the Larry Ellisons of the world. You will never be able to talk to him unless you are also part of that club.
Yeah, I mean, Anyway,
I saw it. I've seen it. It's wild.
Platonic Guardian sends in 5 and says,
billionaires gone wild.
The NFL has an antitrust exemption, but Congress can veto a deal with ESPN. Also, ESPN outbid other networks for college football, driving up costs.
True, 100%.
Yeah. And then Ken Riegard is here. How you doing? Who says, so they made the same mistake as Don Vito, and Peltz was Barzini all along. Oh, yeah. Thank you for the Godfather reference and the $5, Ken Riegard. Appreciate that. And then Ryan Bannon is here and says, if Peltz takes over, do you think he... Oh, we already got this one.
Yeah,
yes, we did. So I just must not have bumped it. That's my fault. Let's see here. Do we have any more that are specific to Peltz? I don't see any more. But Scotty does point out that we are in the diarrhea age of TV and movies. Scotty, you are correct. For $4.99, this is true. And it's nothing is more truer in that respect than it is when it comes to the Ray film, that it may or may not be happening
We don't even know. They don't
Depending
even know.
on what day of the week it is.
Yeah. And I on that note, I hate to step out now, but I have to.
Culture.
I have to say I had a great time. Thank you for letting me speak so much. I'm sure everybody is stupid.
It was great. Oh no,
it was great to see you.
No, we love it. I mean, it's perfect. I love
You
hearing
were
your analysis. In fact, everyone should head on over to Cultured Casino. And for more of his excellent analysis, there's a reason I always want you on here. And while no stream is complete without Cultured Casino on it.
Well, thank you. And yeah, we do have some stuff coming out next week. I'll be doing a Dismal Disney Fest. I appreciate that that's going to be next week almost entirely based on the stories I got to cover. And do check out today's interview, second interview with Nick from Nick Weiser, 32 Flavors of Nick Weiser. And I'm going to get this guy back on because we're going to do more than an interview next time. Sounds like we're going to dive into some stuff that
I'd love it.
It's going to be wild. So
YouTube
I appreciate all.
Can you really do that on YouTube?
Why not? Why not? I'll see you guys later.
No one will watch, but it'll be fun.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
I need to do one of those one of these days as well. So that'll be fun. Look forward to seeing that. Yeah.
So let's get everybody up to speed here on what the hell is going on, because we don't even really know, to be honest with you. But we have heard in the past week that what was that, Price?
I said chaos.
Yeah, chaos, because the Ray movie was delayed, then it was delayed indefinitely. Then it's not delayed. And then we find out that not only is there another movie somewhere in the works with Sean Levy involved that may involve Ray, we also find out how much Daisy Ridley is supposedly going to make from this Ray movie, which is around the vicinity of $12.5 million.
Good
kids.
for her.
That's some Tony Stark monies there. So yeah, before we get too deep into this, Andre, where do we piece this apart here? What the fuck is going on?
Well, first of all, let's just begin with everything that is not conjecture, not rumor.
Right.
Let us begin by summing up everything we know for an absolute fact is going to happen. Okay? So I'm going to begin with getting you all up to speed. We know nothing. You are now up to speed because this is all rumor, conjecture, and everything. And Tom, you basically did a great summing up already on everything that is going on. Let's just begin with saying that if indeed the Ray movie happens, then by all accounts, Daisy Ridley is going to get $12.5 billion out of it, meaning no one on the planet stands to earn more on a Ray movie than Daisy Ridley. Because Disney shareholders certainly won't be seeing that kind of return, nor will the Disney company. Maybe the producers, like Kathleen Kennedy, will have baked a big payout for themselves into the production budget, but anyone earning anything is going to be basically on the expenses side where Disney is concerned. Because that $12.5 million that she's getting paid, that is not getting refunded by ticket sales. I tell you what, certainly not enough.
No.
So I don't even know where to begin with all of this. Clearly, we are now getting some information. We do not know how legitimate it may be, but evidently someone wants us to believe that, not only are we getting this Ray movie, we'll be getting more Ray movies. And where that is plausible is that for those that believe there is life in Star Wars beyond the sequel trilogy, why would you stop at one Ray movie? Then you want to do a Ray trilogy, don't you? I mean, that's just common sense. I don't know that for sure. Before we let Price of reason with what's going on here, Mr. Chato, is there some gut reaction that you have to this? Like, are you excited for any of this?
I'm just glad it wasn't canceled prior to me doing the producers send up of this.
That was fantastic, by the way. Like, that was
I think everybody's at this point with this fucking Ray thing where they're like, and I know Price was talking about this morning. I know we've had our issues with it. Andre and I have, and I'm guaranteeing that just about every other YouTuber is about ready to throw this Ray shit out the window, because every time you probably get a video close to being done, some new fucking revelation comes out about this.
I think they'd be better off if they just said we're redoing the Ray Donovan series. that to me would be a better choice. Listen, I'm happy for Ray for Daisy. I have a lot of problems with a lot of actors and a lot of the shitty Disney movies, and I've never felt that she mailed in her performances. So and I know that she's talked about how she can't get work on anything else because, well, she didn't say it specifically, but because the reaction to the 3 Star Wars movies were so horrendous that she just can't get work. And
actually, I think she did mention Star Wars once in that. She's bitched about it a few
perhaps.
times.
But, you know, bless her heart, I think she's radiant. When I first saw her show up in the very first movie, I went, wow, this was a really good pick. Holy crap, what a lousy fucking movie. That's sort of how it went for me as I watched it in the theater. So, you know what? Take the paycheck and but again, I separate what we hear, understand, and see from what the general public is getting. Is the general public getting any of this information? What a giant mess this is so far? No, they're basically going to only see if the movie comes out. They're just going to start seeing the trailer and the usual shit that they would normally watch as a movie starts rolling out. They won't understand all this drama behind the scenes, but you know, this is something that we're interested in because we're also interested in good movies, and we also want to see good movies being made. And generally speaking, you can't make good movies if this is the stuff that's happening behind the scenes. So, you know, good for Peltz. Maybe all this stuff will be gone. I mean, there's just so much representation and bullshit, and you can even get into Echo and start talking about the level of representation on that show, which is what sunk it. I would love to see. My last thing I'm going to say is I'd love to see Daisy Ridley in a really successful Star Wars movie. I
just wanted to throw real quick out that Eric Kay says Daisy is a horrible actress in everything.
No, she's
That's not true. That is not true.
I disagree.
I mean, in her first role when she played the dead, the topless corpse on a slab, she was amazing.
Honestly, I've only seen her in a few things, and I can't speak to her range outside of the few things I've seen. But here's the thing I found interesting, Paul, about her rant about, I'm not getting any work anymore because of the Star Wars, is she works more than any normal actor does.
She does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is she like a movie star? No. Is she getting these huge paydays? Is she the star of every movie she's in? No. But you know what? She has worked quite steadily since Star Wars. And here's the other thing I pointed out.
I'm not a Daisy Ridley apologist.
No. I'm just saying, I just want to point this out, though. And this is where I wonder where these people have these fucking expectations when they're in these Star Wars movies. Because did everybody forget that there was only one breakout star of the original Star Wars films, and that was Harrison Ford? Mark Hamill didn't really have a career. He got to the point where he started doing voice work. Carrie Fisher got into behind the scenes writing and all that kind of stuff.
She got drunk.
Same thing with the prequels. No breakout stars. Why? Because Ewan McGregor was already a fucking star. Okay.
Yeah, Train Spotting.
Exactly. So like none of those people, like nobody who was brand new in the prequels got a career afterwards. What's his face? Hayden Christensen didn't. You know, none of the new people did.
No, that's a good point.
And even the other side of that too, what's her face was already a star as well. Natalie Portman
and Liam
Neeson. Yeah, exactly. And Samuel Jackson, all stars. So like that one just had already stars
Natalie
in it.
Portman is debatable, but
no, she had already been in the professional. She was a child actress. She had been in several movies.
I know that. But I mean, you also got. I mean, you know, from that perspective, more consistent actors have come out of these sequels than any of the original movies.
Probably.
I mean, they're all working really hard. I mean, not Bo.
Adam Driver's probably doing the best of all of them.
Adam, and then what's his name was in Dune, and he's been in a bunch of things.
Oh yeah. What's his face? I can't think of him now, but yeah.
Yeah, I've seen him in just a ton of. He was in the Moon Guy.
Yeah, Adam Driver somewhat escaped. That's true.
What's the guy? What's the moon? The blue moon? What's frickin'? What's that stupid Disney series that was terrible? He was in that. So
Oscar Isaac.
Oscar Isaac.
Yes.
Thank you. So
yes, I was trying to think of it. Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Actor.
More
the guy who should have played Gomez Adams, but yeah.
Yes, he would have been good. He would have been good. So, anyways, that's a very interesting perspective. Yeah, Harrison Ford did okay for himself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that was what I was saying. Is like, so how are any of these people expecting to be like the fact that she has been working steadily ever since? I think she should be thanking her lucky stars.
And also, these 3 movies have filled her coffers to the
Well,
point
now
where,
if this is true, she's got another $12.5 million payday coming her way.
yeah,
too.
I mean, yeah, she's not behaving like an NBA star, blowing it in the first year.
I think her agent went for a Chris Tucker maneuver. Basically,
Which is what?
Chris Tucker, they wanted him to do Rush Hour 3, and he said, okay, give me $25 million. And they kept saying no, but they wanted to make the movie. And at the end, they cracked, and they gave him $25 million.
I think you're right. And I think that's what took so long for this movie to come together. I think she was holding out. And I think that's part of the reason she was talking to the press that way and saying all that shit, is between her and her agent, they were trying to hold out for a big ass payday. Because let's be real, you're right. On the other side of this, though, Paul, the kind of movie she's making, there's no way she's getting more than $1 million a movie. If that,
she'll never get this opportunity again.
Nope. No, I agree with you, Price.
But on that note, speaking of finding weird things in Price, because you uncovered something. Well, I mean, this is not, I don't know about necessarily uncovered, but you noticed a pattern,
right,
over the past couple years. Because one of the stories that really caused a lot of this chaos, as you put it, Price, was an IO9 Gizmodo article that came out from Germain Lucier, I believe his name is pronounced.
I think it's Lucier. I enjoy calling him Germain Lucier. It just makes me feel nice saying that. But yeah, I think he probably calls himself Lucier. I didn't know initially, and I just went with Lucier. But either or is fine.
So this guy was the guy who put out an article that kind of, because at first we had multiple sources basically saying that the Ray movie had been delayed indefinitely. One being Ward, was it Brian Ward? Is that his name?
Jason Ward.
Jason Ward. Jason
Ward, by the way, is the guy that did he say it was delayed or not delayed?
He was one of the people that said it was delayed indefinitely, and then the other one was coming from that weird website that nobody had ever heard of, because they didn't actually specify a source.
I see.
They just said they talked to somebody at Lucasfilm or whatever. And then we also have the one with, and I believe it was the Jason Ward one was what that said Steve Knight had quit, which is why it's been delayed. So that one also hasn't been confirmed yet. So right now, like, Steve Knight is also like Schrodinger's writer at this point. Because then I'm confused on the Sean Levy project. I'm like, is this the same project? Is it a completely different project? Because we're just learning about this. Are there another movie completely, or maybe he's the new individual that they just brought in? I'm not sure, but you wouldn't bring in another director since you already have a director, unless you're firing Miss Shabay Denoy. I mean, that could be another wrinkle. But anyway, about this Germain Lucier guy, because he put out this IO9 article. I was looking for the article and I can't find it here, so I was kind of stalling. But
okay, I thought you were passing the baton to me. But what else?
I am going to pass the baton to you. Actually, I'm trying to find. Here it is. I finally found it.
No, I wasn't trying to interrupt.
No, because this is the article in question. The original. Let me get this ad out of the way here. No, Ray's Star Wars movie hasn't been delayed by Germain Lucier, or Lucier, as you say. So this is where the rumors started popping up that no, it's still on, it's still happening. But this individual has run interference for Lucasfilm before, you noticed.
Right, and I'll explain just where I started noticing it. If people remember when Gina Carano was fired, initially everybody was waiting because it was a day that there were a lot of rumors, but everybody was waiting for some type of confirmation. And then surprisingly, out of nowhere, IO9 Gizmodo is the one that actually broke the story about her firing, which at the time was very weird that it wouldn't be a Hollywood Reporter, Variety, or one of those things. But it was, in fact, this guy, Germain Lucier, IO9. And even at the time when it happened, I thought to myself, why would they ever give this guy the story? I mean, nobody even knows who this guy is. Why did he get this big scoop? And not only that, the way the article was worded was very unfavorable toward Gina, meaning not only was there an announcement supposedly from Lucasfilm, but the way it was worded seemed very skewed in a very specific way. And it kind of looked suspicious to me. So I continued to look, and I said, I told myself, like a mental note, keep an eye on Germain Lucier. Now, a few weeks later, there was a situation where Cara Dune action figures on eBay were being sold. The prices were skyrocketing on eBay. because Gina had been fired, and I think they said they weren't going to make any more action figures. So there was a spike in sales in secondary markets. Suddenly, along this kind of, you remember that happened? We Love Gina Carano, and everybody was putting on all these pictures of her like online on Twitter that they have the action figure. Suddenly, at the exact same time, you have another article for Jermaine Lussier, where Jermaine Lussier basically says that he recommends that people buy posters of Ahsoka Tano, and he has a link where you can buy them. And I'm thinking to myself, this is so, I swear this really happened. I'm not making it up. I have a whole video. I did a whole video.
Yeah, you have a video on this.
Right.
And we have a few other examples here. Like here's one for Indiana Jones.
Yes. He was, and the way the article, it's not only the article, if you read the way they're written, they're not just to me, they don't seem like an objective person just telling the story, but it really comes from a direction that seems more aggressive, in my opinion. And
as Andre pointed out in his recent video, he even did one recently running interference for Kathleen Kennedy herself.
Right. And I had that clip. I mean, what happened was I started digging in. First of all, the first thing I did was I went to the StarWars.com website and I entered his name. Now, in the past, if you used to go there, an article used to come up and he was in the article. But later, after I started asking questions, they removed the article from the website. Sort of. I still am able to find it if it's I'm still able to find the article, but you can't search for it and find it anymore. If you feel like it, I can show you because I think this is a very telling article. Is there a way to share?
Sure. Yeah, you can go ahead and share.
Okay.
Or I can. Either way. But yeah, this is the Kathleen Kennedy one we mentioned here too. Yeah. Kathleen Kennedy masterpieces ranked.
And I know this is kind of a rabbit hole, but anybody that's listening, I'm telling you that this is totally a good rabbit hole to go through.
Does she use a vibrator when she masterpieces?
Oh,
okay. So here you got
sorry.
This. Oh, no problem, Paul. That was a good joke.
I think.
In any
That's
case,
what I'm here for, Price. That's the only reason I'm here.
This used to be, if you searched on StarWars.com, Jermaine Lussier, this article would come up with a picture of him, an old picture of him celebrating at Star Wars Celebration. And he tells this whole story here about how it was pouring rain the night before. And he decided to wait all night in the rain outside the doors of the convention center. And there was a thunderstorm. And he ended up all in the mud or something. And it's a very weird story. I mean, this seems like a fanatic fan more than a journalist, if you get what I'm trying to say.
Or somebody who's being fed information to get out ahead of or
run
interference for
sure. But I'm just saying that initially, in order to find a person like this, who do you find? If you find a guy that was willing to stand in a thunderstorm in the mud for 24 hours just to get in to something that he already had tickets for, then it's probably a good.
We've kind of gotten an insight into how these guys kind of think too. What was it? What's his face from Collider? Andre, help me out here.
Which one is Jermaine?
The one on the left.
Which one in Collider? You have to give me more to go on.
Ellison, was it the one that was going?
Davis or
was it Ellison or whatever? Who's like, I did everything I was supposed to do, and I still didn't get the fucking pass.
Brain fart. The guy who was also a producer on He-Man for Warner. Oh, what's his face?
It was, it's Christian Harloff. Christian Harloff.
Christian Harloff. Yes, that's the one. Christian Harloff.
So just to sum everything up, I also found audio recordings of him boasting the kind of relationship he has with Lucasfilm, and that I can play if you're willing to hear it. I know I played it for Tom, but I don't know if it's okay to play it here.
Sure.
Okay, so let me share it. This is him himself talking about. This is from my video from a year ago, where I found audio of him. So I'm gonna put that on right now.
Sure.
Tell me if you can hear it.
Enter Jermaine Lussier, who I believe is in Godfather terms, Lucasfilm's very own Luca Brasi, if Luca Brasi drank soy milk and ate tofurkey. Furthermore, I believe that Lussier understood exactly what his position was, and that he was more than happy to push Lucasfilm's narrative, especially if it would mean they would continue to give him special VIP access to premieres, Star Wars cast and crew, interviews, and scoops. Why do I believe this? Well, sometime after the Gina Carano firing, Lussier did a victory lap on a podcast called ATG Cast with Pete Flutzer. In it, Germain Lussier boasts that over the years he's gained access to Star Wars cast and crew due to his special relationship with Lucasfilm.
But I've sat in a room and talked to Harrison Ford. I've sat in a room and talked to Rian Johnson, Kathleen Kennedy, Lawrence Kasdan. You know, like it's really surreal to sit there. You know, it's like this, but we're in a room, and you're like, what is this happening right now? Like, I cannot believe that I'm here.
Even with all of this self-backpatting, Lussier tells the podcast that while breaking the Gina Carano scoop, he couldn't believe that they had actually given him the exclusive and not somebody else.
I get the email, and she's like, here's our comment. And I'm like, and I did a quick search, and I'm like, wait, no one else? Oh my God, they gave it to me. And then I got it up. And, you know, like, and that's called me working my butt off-ish, you know, to do that. And the only reason they answer those emails at all is because I've worked with them in the past. So, you know.
And that actually seems to be the only thing that Lussier was right about.
So that was that part. There's a lot of other things in this video, but if anybody ever gets a chance, I recommend it. But in any case, this guy, to say that he's a shill is an understatement. He seems very favorable, and I think that when somebody just gives him something to say, he simply says it. So when we saw all of these counter articles saying, based on his article, saying that the Rey movie is not delayed and everything is going great, I can't help but think that this is a situation where somebody from Lucasfilm may have picked up the phone, called him and said, hey, do you want a scoop? And he doesn't ask a lot of questions.
It doesn't matter if it's a scoop of shit, basically. I like your little icon. Yeah.
Well, it's perfect because to him, he just gets to put their narrative out there. Plus, he gets the perks and he gets loads of clicks and he gets loads of mentions from everyone else who's going to pick up the story.
Right. It's a win-win for him. And by the way, I actually, at the time after making this video, I did, or maybe even before I made this video, I started picking up on the pattern and I wrote a tweet just mentioning him and showing a few of his articles and saying that I think he has some kind of relationship with a company. And the next thing I know, I looked at his page and he blocked me. And I didn't tag him in my post.
Interesting. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting revelation or discovery you had there, Price. And this is something you've been following for a while. As you said, the video itself that you put out was a couple of years old now, isn't it?
It's at least a year old. I did
a year, yeah.
I did part 1 and part 2. I was going to make it a 3-parter, but I think I was saying on Mead last night that I think maybe I was a bit ahead of my time. People now.
Well, now you got part 3.
Right. Maybe this is the incentive to do part 3 because there's so much crazy stuff going on.
But yeah, it's it was an interesting discovery you had come across there, and I thought it'd be interesting to kind of point out because it doesn't really help us get any more answers, but what it does is add another wrinkle to this mess, really. But it also kind of gives us an answer as to why there's so much chaos going on here, because you've got various people from various different places claiming that they have a source, right? And the thing that makes me wonder about this is, should we believe it? Because this guy clearly does have a direct pipeline to Lucasfilm.
Yes.
But is he just running interference for Kathleen Kennedy now is the big question, I guess, is on everybody's mind.
You know, there's again in my second video, I noticed that there's certain people that he's following and are following him that again could shed some light on where these scoops are coming from exactly, even within Lucasfilm. But I don't know if I should say it or not.
What's the worst thing that can happen?
Well, it seemed like he had some. Again, it's on Twitter, you never know, but I had reason to believe that there was some kind of relationship or at least acquaintance with Pablo Hidalgo. That was my impression based on what I looked into it, which wouldn't surprise me if it were the case. But I just want to say that this is based on the findings that I had. I had reason to believe that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's your interpretation of what you're seeing. I don't see anything wrong with that per se. I mean, the bigger priority should be for Disney to get their shit sorted when it comes to the future of Star Wars, and that's even a lesser thing for the company as a whole.
Imagine if they spent all of this energy in actually making good Star Wars than what they've been doing with all this press and attacking fans and calling people names and internal politics at the company. What if they had just put all that energy into making one good Star Wars movie?
Well, I think that these people find much more joy in just being nasty and horrible people, because that's what they are. Showing their virtue by attacking the enemy, because they're cultists.
Yeah. So sorry to say that we're no closer to answering the question on whether or not the Ray movie is real, not real, happening, whatever you want to call it, or delayed. The news, anyway, I should say. Because the movie's clearly real.
I will stand by what I said in the previous video that we released yesterday, or I think it was yesterday. Yeah, that right now we are dealing with Schrödinger's Star Wars and Schrödinger's movie. Is it dead or is it alive? Is the movie happening or is it not happening? I'd say that right now it's in a super state of both at the same time, and we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. Because I don't even think that they know. Not for certain. I think you have many competing visions and objectives going on behind the scenes at Lucasfilm. And we're just going to have to wait to see what happens. If you're a Disney shareholder, though, I think you would hope that they don't put anything out. Because everything they invest in is money they're not going to get back again. They're not going to get more subscribers on Disney Plus. They're not going to get any more viewers on anything with the current team in place, with Team Kennedy, with Hidalgo, with the story group. Anything that they do is going to be rejected wholesale by what little remains of the fan base. You need a major shake-up there before they can put anything out. And if they don't, someone else comes in later. I mean, just look over at DC and what James Gunn has to contend with all of the other movies that came out before he can come out, that still came out and did damage to the brand identity, and of course lost a shit ton of money. Everything that is put into production now is going to be just like that. So if they're clever, I mean, they should just put a clamp on it and not release anything more under Lucasfilm as long as it's run by Kathleen Kennedy, because it's all going to be disasters.
You did bring up something there that I think is an interesting point. We aren't even taking into consideration how much money they've already sunk into this. See, we got to keep that in mind. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, you've had Damon Lindelof already work on this, and he probably got paid for it. How many other unknown writers that have worked on this that we don't know about? We got Daisy Ridley's payday that probably has some sort of pay or play deal involved. She may not get the full $12.5 million if they don't happen, but I guarantee you she got some kind of sign up bonus, and she'll get something if it happens one way or the other.
Maybe so 50%. 50%.
Exactly. Either way, even if it's 30%, what have you, 25%, it doesn't matter. Point is, how much money is already sunk into this thing? Like, I'm wondering if they have to make it just because of how much money is sunk into it. Kind of like with The Exorcist.
That is really shitty business logic, if it is. I mean, it
is, but it's what happened to Superman and Exorcist now. So
yeah, I know, but that's the problem. That's how you lose money. It's a reason why you have the whole concept of sunk cost, and that is to prevent you from throwing good money after bad. Just accept that the money that you've already invested, it's lost, it's gone. Best thing you can do now is take what money is left and try to focus that on something else entirely. But the more money you are throwing after something that can't be fixed in order to fix it, that's just more money you're going to burn.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, Paul knows this. You're from the world of IT. How many projects have gone to hell and how much money has been lost because some people tried to salvage what had already been invested?
Oh, I mean, just in the IT business, that's, there's two ways to look at it. There are some projects in IT that are created to never end, just because ending it means.
Okay, I'm not talking about projects which were meant to end, but they made a critical decision early on, and then it's a matter of how long do you want to go before you realize this is never going to work. Just end it, write it off, and move on and do something else. I mean, how much money has been lost because they didn't make that decision early enough?
Well, that's an upper level manager that has to make that decision. The middle manager is going to keep that job going, that because they're afraid that whatever they've created is not going to be in spec. So that it just goes. I mean, you need good management at an upper level to stop these things.
Exactly. You need someone to come in and take responsibility.
Correct.
And realize that this ain't working. We are never making money off this. You have someone else further down whose interest it is just to keep on burning money, but the people that are the ones that ultimately have to answer to someone. At some point, they have to step down and stop this madness.
Well,
unfortunately, there's no one in Disney to do that.
And not that I'm at that big a scale, but when we managed we had our own content management system for decades, and I was shifting it over. I made the decision to shift it over from Microsoft to Linux, put in $50,000, which for our company was huge. And then it was almost done. And I went, no, we're moving everything over to in the cloud, and basically torched the entire effort, which the programmers weren't happy about. But I realized what the future was. And I thought, no more money. $50,000 was going to be it, because this wasn't the future. And I'm telling you, it was painful.
Yeah.
And Hello Computer sends in $2 and says D+ doesn't even know if Ray is delayed. Yeah. Nathan Housley says IO9 has been used as an attack dog by publishers and other entertainment industries. Yes. I've noticed that for other things as well. This is true, I guess. Jason Webster says, ain't Ray of sunshine till KK's gone. Ain't Ray of sunshine till KK's gone. She's been at Lucasfilm too long. Yeah, I figured it out halfway. Boom, boom, boom.
All these clever commenters you've got.
And now that you got me singing, Hyperguyver says, butterfly in the sky. LeVar's ancestors were white. Take a look. It's in a breeding rainbow. It's in a book of breeding rainbow. Did you guys see this shit? So Kunta is white.
Yes. Yes.
I'm
Saw
not
him on.
that he's going to have some white ancestry.
Do you hear that, Kitty? You half white.
Yeah, he was really disappointed. I saw the show with Gates on PBS, where he said, well, your grandfather had a white wife and had like a shit ton of white kids. What?
Oh, so it wasn't. Oh, because I think that he wouldn't have minded if it was like the Kunta way that he got like white into him. But if it was like, oh no, this was actually a perfectly consensual, happy intermixed marriage, then he might not be too happy.
Potentially, well, his grandma was like the second family or whatever. But like, yeah, what it turns out is like his great grandfather was like a Confederate soldier who ended up turning later in life and falling in love with this black woman. It ended up being his like great grandmother.
That's a movie that should be made right there.
He could star in it.
My favorite, just to derail this thing further, one of my favorite PBS Gates show, what was the name of it? Searching for Your Roots, was a very activist black actress. He said, turn the page. What do you see there? Shit, my relatives had slaves. Yep. He was a plantation owner. And she went, oh, she was mortified. It was a fine moment, let me tell you.
Was this plantation? Was this a white or a black?
No, black. There were black.
Yeah, that's what I mean. This is something that's forgotten, but there were a ton of black slave owners.
Yeah, not a ton,
Absolutely.
but hers was one of them.
Yeah.
Not to mention a lot of the people involved with the actual procuring of slaves.
Well, that's another thing. That
was the ton. That was the ton.
Exactly. That's what I was getting at. But you know, the funny thing is now I'm not such a racist for naming my cat Kunta Kinte. Now, am I? Ha.
Yeah, but putting him in braids, yes.
Well, I don't do that. The only thing I do to him is when he's on a leash, I call him Toby.
That reaction was right up there with the Antiques
That was a
Roadshow.
goddamn good joke, and you passed right over it, Paul.
It was right up there with the Antiques Roadshow, another PBS show, where they had this giant clothes hutch, and the husband had refinished it, and the assayer said, well, this thing is worth $30,000. But if you hadn't have refinished it, it would have been $3 million. And the wife just turned to her husband and looked at daggers at him. I was just howling. Right up there. I love those moments where people get embarrassed.
That was a little side rail, but yeah, it was funny. I saw that clip and I'm just like, oh, LeVar. I actually met LeVar at the Star Wars celebration. He's really nice. His daughter was actually quite quite nice.
He looks
and
quite fetching in the white beard.
he's very small.
Is he?
He's quite small. Yes, like because I'm only like 5'9", and he's like here on me.
Well, Sylvester Stallone is shockingly small.
That's what I've heard, and he claims to be 5'9", but I've heard people.
Oh no,
just said he's more like 5'4", 5'5". Yeah.
Cher's pretty small.
He isn't even as tall as he looks compared to him. Like
a lot of stars are short. That's just goes with the.
There's certain traits I've noticed about stars. They're generally short. They have wide faces, and they have a small body, usually compared to their head, as well. Like this is a common thing amongst them. But anyway, what were you saying, Andre? I'm sorry.
Yeah, and a big head.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, a lot of a big head for many reasons.
I call it the Q-tip syndrome. That they just have they have very large heads, and I spent time in Hollywood, and when I was always shocked at how aggressive their facial features are.
Yes,
in real life, and then it gets flattened out a little bit on film, but it's almost as if you need those aggressive facial features to just look kind of normal,
to register
and look normal on on the movies. It's one of the reasons I never became a star.
He was a really nice guy when I met him, and like I said, his daughter was even more nicer. But because I even asked him about interviews and stuff like that, she's like, "Yeah, he doesn't really do them too often and all that kind of stuff." And when
did you ask him if he had a white wife?
No, but I believe he does. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, but let's move on here.
Let's move on. Mr. Tickle Trunk is in his house, sending in Canadian 10 and says, "I recently rewatched a weird indie movie called He Never Died, starring Henry Rollins. Never heard of that one. Interesting.
I'm familiar. I haven't seen it.
I figured you would be.
Yeah, big fan of Henry Rollins. Actually saw him live about 1 year ago from now.
Even better than I remembered because of today's movies. Because of movies today, action, very dark, humor, obvious twist, but a lot of fun. Is it a good movie? He Never Died, Andre?
Again, I haven't. I have it. I know of it, but I actually haven't.
Oh, I thought you said you haven't seen it. Okay.
Yeah, gotcha. It was good enough to get a sequel, or certainly it was successful enough to get a sequel.
Well, and I get what you're saying, Mr. TT, because this happens to me more often than not. Like I just watched Rambo 3 the other night, and I'm like, God, this movie is so much better than I remember it being,
really?
just because of everything being so shit now. But I was also having fun with it too. Like there's a clear, obvious, just like 80s isms in it and stuff like that you can just kind of laugh at. But yeah, no, it happens quite often.
I am concerned about the audiences being bludgeoned by mediocrity, and then going,
it is a problem.
That my gosh, that Ray movie was brilliant. Well,
right?
No.
Well, can you kind of, considering like some people used to say, like, for instance, here's an example. It's a Wonderful Life. People panned it when it came out. It flopped at the box office.
Yeah.
And it became popular because they showed it every holiday on UHF channels and stuff because it was public domain due to the loophole in the copyright law for years. But people consider it a classic now, and it's a great film.
Yes.
Was it because of the mediocrity in the 70s and 80s, or was it just that good of a movie and overlooked? It could be the same thing here said about a few things. I'm not going to go that far about Rambo 3, but I'm not going to say there weren't some overlooked gems of the past either that we may need to revisit that didn't necessarily get attention.
Yeah, I don't know if Highlander in its present state, if it was released now as a brand new film, would go very far.
Well, it's interesting that you just brought that up because you are perfectly segueing into our final topic of the day. And that is Chad Stahelski of John Wick fame will be overseeing Highlander and John Wick franchises for Lionsgate.
Yeah.
Now, this is a pretty big move, Andre. Can you explain to the audience why this is a big move for Lionsgate?
Well, there are a couple of things. First and foremost, it means that Lionsgate, they now have a couple of big brands, because we always used to refer to Lionsgate as the bomb factory.
Yeah, the canon, the brand new canon.
Kind of,
yeah. Now they're kind of like doing what Disney did right more than a decade ago by getting a proper brand manager to oversee their brands with the future. So you obviously have John Wick, which is already a very successful franchise, and they're obviously not going to stop it anytime soon. But this is the guy who's also going to bring back Highlander, and they're evidently very optimistic about that. Biggest point, though, this is someone that has success in bringing things to a big audience. He has his own style, he has his own voice, audiences respond to it. I'm very excited for the prospects of this, because basically this means the Highlander cinematic universe and the John Wick cinematic universe continues.
So yeah, before we lose you, Paul, because I know you got to be leaving us pretty soon, what's your reaction to this? Now, this, of course, would be the new Highlander film starring Henry Cavill as Connor MacLeod, and you just recently saw Highlander for the first time. So I'm curious your thoughts on this. Oh, he just stepped away for a moment, so he'll be back. Price, what's your reaction to this? Are you a Highlander fan, John Wick fan? I think this is a good move for Lionsgate.
I'm a bigger Highlander fan than John Wick fan. I like John Wick, especially the first movie, but I think that the sequels, some people were more excited about them than I was. But I think it's well made. It's certainly, there's much worse things going on than the John Wick franchise in entertainment. And this guy being in charge of Highlander doesn't sound like the worst thing that could happen with Henry Cavill starring. You can only argue does he have too much on his plate right now? But aside from that, I think that if he can handle the workload and put the right people around him, this isn't the worst thing I've ever read.
Yeah, I think this is one of the right guys to do this, and it sounds like he has an idea that Highlander has potential to be a franchise, and he's not gonna fuck that up from the outset. I mean, so hopefully that will work well. And as far as John Wick, I agree with you. I feel like it's kind of played out a little bit. The sequels just, to me, kind of I got to a point where I'm like, where's the controller so I can play this game?
And I think that's more of a legacy thing in a sense. That's kind of like where he started out. He's always going to feel that he's not going to want to let anyone else take control over that. So if Lionsgate decides we want another John Wick, all this means is that he's going to be the one to do it. But probably he could be ready to I want to do some other stuff. I only do this if Lionsgate really demands it. But chances are his sights right now are on bringing back Highlander and making a proper franchise out of that. Although, of course, I would love for him to put some more attention on Streets of Rage as well, because we haven't gotten an update on that in a while either. Which is also
that over at Lionsgate?
Yeah, it's Lionsgate, and it's this guy as well. It's, if memory serves.
Oh yeah, I remember now. Yeah, you're right. So yeah, maybe that's part of this deal too. But yeah, no, I think this is a good idea for Lionsgate to finally start to get some brand managers involved with what few brands they have. They don't have a lot, but they do have a few. Highlander being one of them. John Wick. They also have the one that just came out this year, the prequel, The Hunger Games, and they have the Saw franchise. So they've got a couple things in their coffers, but now if they can just get because the last Saw movie did okay for them. So I mean,
and the next one is coming. They already announced the next Saw movie, but again, that doesn't need him as a brand manager. That's already under control.
No, I'm saying they may need some other brand managers for some of their other things. Is what I was getting to.
Yes,
yeah.
You always need good brand managers. For every entertainment company or entertainment brand that goes to hell, it's because it doesn't have a proper brand manager. I mean, just look, for instance, at Lord of the Rings, rather. It was the moment when Christopher Tolkien was no longer capable of overseeing the whole thing. That's when it went to hell. It was the loss of the brand manager.
I'm trying to think of some of the other stuff they own. I know they've got a few
not
smaller
necessarily own,
franchises,
but that they lease and it's under their control.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a few smaller things. Twilight's another one that's a big one underneath their purview right now.
I wonder if in Highlander will they have. I hope that they don't follow the exact story of the original movie, because I think that the original movie set it up in a way that was more difficult to make sequels for. I would hope that there's a different vision for Highlander in general.
I guarantee you there will be.
Actually, in the words of Nelson Peltz, I'm glad you asked that question, Price, because actually he's talked about this already, Andre. Chad has.
Okay.
And he said he's going to treat this more like a prequel in a sense to the story that we know. So this isn't going to be a direct remake of the original films. He's keeping, like I said, in mind that this is going to be a franchise, so they don't write themselves into a corner like they did with the first film.
Right, because we don't want to see The Quickening Part 2 or whatever that thing was called.
Yeah, Highlander 2, yeah.
The Quickening? That's what it was, right?
Yeah, and we were joking about this yesterday. Lance Corporal Waffles, who's been a member for 8 months, thank you so much, says John Wick versus Highlander. You're welcome. It's not a horrible idea. I mean, John Wick could pop into the Highlander universe. But
I would not be overtly surprised if that at some point were to happen.
Even if it was just a little wink, wink, nod, nod, nudge, nudge thing, I wouldn't care. But I don't want something that's going to be ultimately distracting, because I love the fantasy, the lore, because Highlander feels like one of those natural things that just kind of sprouted out, but it always also feels like it's something that was always there, kind of like an Immortal in a weird way. You know what I mean? Because that first movie just kind of came out of nowhere. It wasn't a huge hit here, but eventually grew momentum. And then, as you said, Price, that sequel was notorious and still is for being one of the worst sequels of all time. And the franchise was pretty much dead until that TV show revived it. And the TV show had more success than I think the franchise had ever had to that point. And it built this huge fan base. And the fans have been let down quite a bit by the amount of sequels and spinoffs and things that we've gotten over the years. I think this franchise needs to be taken seriously. I think this is the guy to do it. I think Henry Cavill was an inspired choice to take on as the lead. Sure, and I get it. And I agree with people in the chat. He's not a Connor MacLeod type, even though he's playing Connor. But don't be surprised if they don't kind of combine Connor and Duncan's attributes into one.
At least he doesn't have a French accent.
He's from lots of different.
Actually, he's an American. Was originally born in the United States and raised in Switzerland. So,
yeah, but so now that you're back, Paul, because you just saw the first Highlander, what's your reaction to Chad Stahelski taking over both the Highlander and John Wick franchises?
Well, I mean, all I can do is comment on the Highlander part. I mean, obviously, he'll have enough people around him that he doesn't stretch himself too thin, which is always a concern. I think Wick has kind of run its course. We'll see, but
I agree.
A Highlander, I think this is an inspired choice. I think because you want the sword fighting. This is a very big deal, and you want 1980s cars exploding and 1970s cars exploding in parking lots. If they did a 1-for-1 remake of it, but with modern technology, and make it look less like a music video, I would be really totally happy with that.
Well, I think you stepped away when we were talking about it. He isn't actually doing a 1-for-1 remake.
No. I'm just saying, that would be fun. No, I think he's the perfect choice. It's a guy's movie. We don't want someone Disney-fying Highlander.
Right. Well, and if they're listening, if anybody's listening, Chad, get Antonio Banderas to play Ramirez. Please,
oh yeah,
love of God. It would be perfect casting, because he basically is a wink, wink, nudge, nudge to Zorro as well. Right? Like, so
yeah, I think you need a Scotsman to play a Spanish guy.
Fuck it. Let's just dig up Sean Connery.
Sean Connery was good though, even though he wasn't Spanish.
I know, Spanish peacock.
He was great. Look, he was great in the diaper. I just love the man.
I'm a Spaniard.
As the castle is coming down
the
around
French
him.
guy playing a Scot.
Swiss. It's American Swiss.
Oh, was he? I thought he was French. Okay.
No, I thought he was. Lambert, I looked him up. He was raised in Switzerland, which has all those languages.
See, I know a few things about him, but I don't know so much about his past. I know he barely speaks English.
Yeah.
It says he's a French actor when I Google him.
I was going to say, yeah,
really?
At least he got his fame he was in French films anyway, at least.
Yeah, I think so.
Paul's probably right.
Paul is right that he was born in the U.S. It says that he was born in Great Neck, New York, but based on his accent, he didn't live long at Great Neck, New York.
Well, he's from lots of different places.
Right.
But I think this is good. I mean, this guy's good looking. He could play the Spanish guy.
Almost, but like just to me, Antonio Banderas.
Oh,
makes
that would be
sense.
cool.
It's like
okay. Paul was right. I mean, he was born in New York, then they moved to Geneva, and from Geneva they moved to Paris.
Well, and what's funny also about Christopher Lambert, he's been blind most of his life. Like he's legally blind.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah. Like he
So
can
he could have
barely
been in
see.
Echo.
Yes, he could have. Well, not Echo, but whatever the equivalent is, Dark. I guess I don't know.
Her father.
Her father's blind and she's deaf. That's weird. But yeah, because he almost killed a couple of the actors making those movies because he would practice with his glasses on and he had these extremely strong glasses. And then as soon as they'd start filming, he'd take his glasses off. And yeah, like Clancy Brown was talking about how he damn near killed him a couple times.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically the opposite of Satoichi. Like he's blind, but he can't fence.
Yeah, do a search on Bubbles. You'll never get him.
But like now his sight is like almost completely gone, sadly. But yeah.
Oh, poor guy.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, no, he did the best he could, surprisingly, with it. But before we lose you, Paul, because I know you said you had to run here on us, so we got at least one, I think, super chat for you here. Scarborough sends a $9.99 and says the soiling that Chato talked about I refer as organizational feudalism, if I could speak. The managers are feudal lords afraid of losing power and influence, and an ineffectual king cannot get them in line.
This is true.
And I think he continued. I think this might be a continuation, if I'm not mistaken. Scarborough also sends in another $9.99. It says indentured servitude was abandoned in favor of slavery. Bringing over new servants to replace free ones was expensive, and all freemen became a landowner with voting power. Race was a justific action. Ugh. So there you go. I guess he had a comment.
Wow, this is heavy duty words there, man.
Yeah, especially for me.
Oh yeah, I've worked with agencies, which is why I stopped working with agencies.
Paul, you're the fucking picture. You just sent it back. Anyway, I love you. I'm not even gonna. No. Sorry, Scarborough. That is my fault for looking at something Paul posted in the background here. But yes, this is a very wow, you got a lot in this $20, man.
Yeah, man. And it's $10. Yes.
Well, between the two.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So thank you for the support. And yes, interesting point you made there.
It was actually something when we were developing websites, when it was not a big deal and companies did a lot of trade shows and already had their advertising budgets laid out, I would literally have the president walk into the marketing department and say, okay, we're going to be building a website. Paul Chato is going to be building it with his company. And then he would leave and then no one would, the idea we would share everybody's budgets, but not a single, not a single vice president would share a cent of their budget to make a website. Like it was all part of the deal. It was hilarious. No matter, even when the president would tell everybody, we're sharing budgets. Nope.
Well, with that, Paul, you have to get running. So anything you want to plug on your way out the door as I double check to make sure we didn't miss any super chats for you?
Did a little video on Tatiana Maslany admitting that it looks like there won't be a season 2 of She-Hulk. I have my own interpretation of that, and I've launched that today. So please watch that on my Call Me Chato channel.
Mr. Tickle Trunk says here, Paul, never apologize for making more videos. I think Mr. Tickle Trunk really loves you a lot.
Yeah, Tickle Trunk is great. Oh, he loves everybody. He is such a sweet guy.
I think he loves you more than I do. Action Com sends in $10 and says, Paul, there are already Disneyfied Highlander when they created the female-centric Highlander TV series. Oh, yeah. I believe that's this one here.
Oh, I never saw it.
Oh, yeah. I don't think you've ever seen the TV series, but this was one of the spin-offs here. The Raven. I believe that's what he's talking about.
Oh, she looks good.
Starring an actress, only qualification was that she bonked Bill Clinton. What the hell? Predictable. with predictable results. He means, yeah.
Wow. I think he meant boinked, but we have to use the right
Bonked,
terminology.
Yeah, but
It could
thank
be
you for
from
that.
another country.
We appreciate that. So yeah, Highlander already tried the woke thing years ago.
Well, just swapping out a woman for a man is not necessarily
actually woke. That series made sense at the time, and I'm not trying to stick up for how bad it is. It is not very good, but it made sense because they knew that their audience was largely women, but they made the same mistake that almost every franchise has made now. But they were doing it at a time when everybody else hadn't really been doing it, besides like She-Ra.
Well, look at what they did with Relic Hunter and Tia Carrera, right? That was actually technically a race and gender swap of Indiana Jones, although it's a completely different show, but it was a ripoff of it. But that was great cheesy fun, that show.
Yeah, no, it wasn't really technically woke. So don't get me wrong on that. It's just,
so I mean, was
like
Relic Hunter woke just because Tia Carrera was the lead?
Is the next Karate Kid considered woke?
No, but there was this era. That's why I've said before, when they're acting like they're breaking new ground or going through these glass ceilings or whatever it is they're trying to say, it's like, the fuck you did. This shit is nothing new. We have had this shit for years. In fact, one of the most popular things I remember back when I was younger was they would do the gender swapped Odd Couple. Once in a while, you'd be able to go find and go see. And this is just a normal thing you would see from time to time. The Wiz is another example of things I bring up.
And one of the reasons they went with Tia Carrera for Relic Hunter is hot babe. So that is obviously anti-woke to begin with. Look what they're doing with speaking of Relic Hunter, the video game girl.
Lara Croft.
Lara Croft. Look what they're doing with her. They're just,
Yeah.
And speaking of Zorro, because I brought it up a little bit ago, that's right. Pauly's going to be doing a Zorro watch party for the new TV series.
That is fantastic.
Indeed. And this stream is going to redirect to it. So go check that out.
I hear those Zorro television series is very good.
Yeah, it's just it's a new standard series. I look forward to
We will find out.
Yeah. We will find out. I saw
here's
from it.
If you can't get Antonio Banderas to Neil, I agree with you, Gerard Butler, but he might be almost better as like the Kurgan. Oh, is Zorro and then Skeet Ulrich is a JFK. Okay. Yeah, I don't know about Skeet Ulrich as JFK though. I don't know where you're getting at. I think he's older now than JFK ever was. That's sad.
Yeah, when they first said Kurgan, I said, I am a gherkin. I went, you're a pickle? Gherkin. What? Okay.
I'm Candy. Of course you are.
That's right. I'm a pickle. Anyways, gentlemen, please.
Yes. We got more super chats. We'll get back to him as soon as Paul gets his exit.
No more for me? None?
No, I think we're good on unless I missed one here.
Okay. Thank you very much. Price, a pleasure. Tom,
Pleasure
as always,
usual.
Andre,
nice to see you, Paul.
You're wonderful and handsome.
Oh, thank you. Well, it was a pleasure to have you on as always. Everyone, make sure to check out both Call Me Chato and also the newest Appalling News.
That's a lot of fun to do.
Which is a lot of fun both to watch and you're going to have so much content to
it's coming in streams. It's pretty amazing.
Oh, thank God, to Neil. I was like, I didn't want to make you feel bad, but thank God Skeet Ulrich was a joke. Okay, good.
Oh, good. Okay. Bye, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Take care, Paul. All right. Let's get. Did you still good price for time?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure because we got some super chats we're gonna get through. All right, this is HUF. What in the world is that, Adam? Thank you for whatever it is. 9,400.
Hungarian forints.
Say that again.
Hungarian forints.
Okay.
FYI, forints, yeah.
Queen Rock Montreal is in theaters this week in a digitally remastered version of the 1981 live concert for the first time in IMAX quality, including 12-channel surround sound. I'll be watching this with my son tomorrow. Wow.
Awesome. Fantastic.
I wonder if that's getting released here in the US.
Yeah.
And I hope it gets a 4K release, actually, because I think I have the Blu-ray or DVD, whichever one it got
I've
before.
never seen it, actually.
I have like almost every one of their concerts that's been released. They actually have quite a few, believe it or not.
I saw Wembley Stadium, maybe something like that.
Yeah, there's Wembley. There's this one. There's quite a few. I've got like a handful of them, but I'm pretty sure I got that one too. Patrick Robinson sends in 1999 says video game movies are really scraping the bottom of the barrel until Dawn, which is practically an interactive movie, is getting a movie adaptation. Will not be surprised if we get Spider-Man 2, the game, the movie. That would be weird. But I see what
at some point they're gonna probably do a movie where they have to introduce both Spider-Man with the Miles Morales thing. It's only a matter of time. I would think that a live action like that will happen one day.
Well, yeah. But as far as Until Dawn, I'm not really familiar with Until Dawn, but this is, Patrick, one of the problems I have with a lot of video game adaptations outside of a few exceptions is that I'd rather just play the damn game. And I'm not even a gamer. But yeah, do you know of Until Dawn, Andre? I doubt it since it's probably not on the Sega Mega Drive, but
I've heard the name.
Yeah, it sounds sort of familiar. I'm imagining it's either some zombie game or something, probably. They always are. But no, like that's the problem with like Last of Us. I was kind of surprised that was as successful as it was, because the cut scenes in that game and some other games that I've played is like you're practically watching a movie already, you know, and then plus you get to interact with it. So why would you want to downgrade? I don't get that. So yeah. Not to say that a lot of the storylines sometimes in some of these games are as good as movie quality. That's another conversation to be had, but yeah.
Is there buzz for the second season of that show, by the way? I feel like the first one, I didn't love it as much as everybody did.
I don't know. I'm sure it'll do popular. The one thing I did see, I guess the gay characters are not set to return. That should make some people happy, but it'll be interesting to see. I don't know. I didn't watch it.
I think it would be difficult for them to come back.
It was a news story. Somebody actually wrote a fucking story about it, so I just thought I'd mention it. I just happened to see it in passing. I see a lot of headlines. So. But yeah, no, video game movies might be the next thing. I'm just not so sure that they're going to take off the way superhero movies and stuff did. Andre, anything to say to that?
I think it depends entirely on the execution of the next few movies to come here, because there have always been some really cool video game movies here and there. Unfortunately, most of them have been made by people who never should have made them. So I think it depends. I don't think that we're ever going to have anything that's going to be like the next huge, massive, universally popular thing like comic book movies or the MCU, to be specific. But that video game adaptations are going to be more prevalent. Yeah, sure. And they're going to be a mixed bag. Some are going to be great. Some not so much.
Yeah, and this is what I'm saying. Like, sure, there's Mario, there's Mortal Kombat, there's Sonic, there's a few that are obvious ones. But I have a feeling that a lot of the ones that are going to be popular in a big way are the ones that are either like huge games like The Last of Us, or stuff that's been around for a long time, like the ones I just mentioned, Mortal Kombat, Sonic, Mario, quote unquote, the exception to the rules. Right.
Zelda is probably
Zelda's one that has potential. Exactly. Yeah. So, but now if you do some rando game like Until Dawn, I can't really even place it in my brain. There was a couple other movies based on games that came out that I didn't even know were based on games until people like Andre or other people pointed them out to me, like Silent Hill and a couple other ones. And I know you're like, what? But I'm not a big gamer. I'm just not. I mean, I find certain games sometimes, like you do a GTA movie, I know exactly what that is, right? You know what I mean? Like something like that, I would know.
I'm the same way. I also I don't play every game, and I especially these days. So if it's a big franchise that people know, then there's a chance that I'll know it. And if it's something more,
I'm totally a normie when it comes to that shit.
I feel like I'm a normie too.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah. Tetris, the movie, the game. Well, that I could see because of that movie. See, now I actually enjoyed that movie. It's still probably one of my favorite movies of the year, if not still my favorite, between that and Godzilla. I mean, it's just that's a different animal though than actually making a Tetris movie based on the game itself, right? Like that's a bit different.
I really can't think. I mean, maybe somebody can, but how do you make a movie of the game itself? I mean, it's just a bunch of shapes. You can put like eyes on every shape, make them kind of like Mr. Potato
It'd be
Head.
worse than the. I was gonna say it'd be worse than the Emoji Movie, right?
That's what it would be. That's exactly what it would be.
The blue block is no longer happy. Aw, the red block's all mad. No, I don't know. Fucking no, that's kind of what I was saying. Like even Gran Turismo surprised me because I was like, even that is something that's so simple as a game that it's like, why would you want to make a movie out of that? That would be boring. But they found a way to do it because that kind of falls in that Tetris category of it's a game or a movie about the game, not so much a movie of the game.
There's a true story, at least inspired by a true story element there that's human. So at least you can connect with it, even if you've never played the game.
See, and this is kind of a different category all on its own. This is a new biopic that's been sprouting up ever since The Founder, the McDonald's movie, where it's the product biopic. I've noticed BlackBerry had a movie here recently, one I want to see. Some other ones. There's the Flaming Cheetos movie that Paulie knows about in the chat if he's still here.
Facebook was sort of that, and social
network. Actually, you're right. That was probably the first one. You're right.
Right.
Price. That would probably be true. Yes.
And David Fincher did pretty good in that movie. I pretty well. I like what he did there.
Yeah. I can't stand that the people it's about, but it's a very interesting movie to watch.
True.
Indeed. So, Andre, anything to say on that or no?
No, not really. Not as such, no.
All right. Jesus Davila gifted a membership. Thank you for that, Jesus. We appreciate the support. Chaos Sonic. Okay, sent in one here. Then sent in one. So I'm going to read them all together here before we comment. Chaos Sonic 1 sends a $9.99, says, heads up, best to lower expectations on Deadpool 3. As of one of the writers is Zeb Wells, the writer that cucked Spider-Man comic going on, and one of the writers of She-Hulk. And then he says, sorry, autocorrect on the phone is bad. Trust me, I understand that. I have that fucking same problem with a brand new phone. But then he sent one on the Rumble side to fix that. So thank you for that. It says, heads up, best to lower expectations for Deadpool 3. As right now, the writer is Zeb Wells, the writer of the bad Spider-Man comic and the writer of the She-Hulk show. Please ignore my other super chat, he said. Well, I still wanted to read it because you sent it in and paid for it. But on that note, I think a lot of people have had somewhat tempered expectations for Deadpool 3 for the most part, I would say. I mean, we're all kind of in agreement that it's probably the only hope Disney has this next year, but at the same time, I don't think any of us are expecting it to blow our minds. Are we?
Not really.
Not at all. I have my expectations are lowered. I am not. I worry that this is a movie that's going to be burdened by the fact that you need to do so much homework for it. Our one hope here is Ryan Reynolds and how much creative freedom Ryan Reynolds has. If he's been allowed to do this thing relatively unimpeded, it should be good. If Feige and Iger had a bunch of things they demanded he do here, I'm slightly less enthused. But also remember, Ryan Reynolds had loads more influence in the second Deadpool than he had in the first.
You just stole my point. Yes, thank you.
And the first Deadpool, that was the perfect mix of the director and Ryan Reynolds. It was the two of them together that made this special.
If anything, maybe them butting heads.
Well. Yeah.
Sometimes the butting of heads can result in a better film. Like two people fighting for the better film. Yeah. But in the second film, I think they removed that obstacle. Yeah.
But because when you butt heads and you fight, I mean, sometimes art comes out of it. I mean, you can just look at the music industry with many great bands. I mean, I can cite Rammstein, but there's so many others.
McCartney.
Where the artists, when they really fight together, and they all have to compromise.
Or another example is George Lucas, who had nobody to call him out, right?
Exactly,
after a while.
And then the resulting album can be fantastic. And then, but other times when all the musicians, they agree completely. This is the best thing we've ever done. And it comes out and it freaking sucks. No one else likes it. Because they're all group thinking.
Sometimes
Absolutely.
also somebody could be strong at one thing and he knows it, but he gets so overconfident in that thing that he does. And if there's nobody else sort of reining him in, then it doesn't come out the right way.
Yeah. Oh, in Doll Life, Dan just brought this is funny because yeah, I thought about this too. In the 90s, there was a Street Fighter, the movie, the game. Yes, there was.
That was fun.
It was a crappy version of Street Fighter with photo sprites of Jean-Claude Van Damme's movie actors. Yes, basically Mortal Kombat is Street Fighter.
Yeah, it was basically, because they digitized the actors from the movie and they gave it the Mortal Kombat treatment without the fatalities. So it was like a fun thing, very period thing. Fun thing to have on the PlayStation 1 and stuff, which is where it came out. Because that was
honestly,
it was PlayStation 1, it was Saturn, it was the stuff like that.
That's like a history that's like the eating of a snake eating its own tail. That's probably almost the first, if we ever do finally get Midnight's Edge gaming off the ground, like if we ever do retrospectives, that'll probably be one of our first retrospectives, is how Jean-Claude Van Damme made Mortal Kombat in so many ways, because that was what that original game was supposed to be, a Jean-Claude Van Damme game. And that was the whole idea of where they developed this real pictures as the fighters, as the sprites or whatever, right? And then he backed out of that deal. And then he signs on to this fucking movie and they make that game in the same image as the Mortal Kombat game. So it all kind of comes full circle on itself in a weird way. It's kind of fucked up. Because, yeah, Bloodsport was the inspiration. That's right, Christian. Yep. And Gonzalo both came in there with that. Yep. But we'll definitely get back to that someday. But what we do need is, you're right, Batman.
It was released for I just checked. It was on the first PlayStation and the Sega Saturn. Those were the two.
Yeah.
And it actually started out as an arcade game before that.
I was going to say, I played the arcade version of it. I never played the home console version.
Yeah.
But this is true. We need Bat Tom the Game the movie. We need Bat Tom the movie, the game the movie. It's the movie based on the game based on the movie. Yeah. Okay. Got it. All right, moving on. Thanks so much. Let's see. We got that one. Sutton Creek gifted a membership as well. Thank you for that, Sutton Creek Productions. We appreciate that. Then we got Daryl Brewer in the house. Speaking of members, how you doing, buddy? He's been here for 29 months. Says, remember, kids, Price of Reason is sound, same, and happy with, I think he means sane, and happy with life, and wants to continue living. Just saying to remember that. Okay.
That's true. I agree.
Is that what he means? Sane and happy? I think, yeah. Jason Webster points out that Godzilla -1 is now the 5th highest worldwide grossing Japanese live action film of all time. Wow.
It needs to be higher on that list.
I would think it would be.
Yeah.
Just with inflation alone.
All in all. But I mean, what other Japanese movies could?
That's what I'm trying to think of. What previous Godzilla films? Like, that was the thing, is back in the day, the Godzilla films were released sporadically in the US, and in fact, the second film was not even released as a Godzilla film.
That was so long ago. You'd think that inflation would be in this movie's favor. So
there's got to have been some Kung Fu or Bruce Lee movies or something in the meantime. But no, those are Chinese. So yeah, those are Chinese. So no, yeah, you're right. So like, what the fuck else has Japan done?
What the hell else could there possibly be?
Anime? Maybe? Is there some anime films that maybe?
Akira or something like that. So I can
maybe imagine. Some Studio Ghibli films, perhaps. Hidden Fortress or something.
I can't imagine otherwise.
Yeah, maybe some of the. Yeah, I suppose it could be, or that, or because even the Kurosawa films were so fucking long ago. There's no way
inflation would have caught up with them.
Maybe Ran. That would be one of his latter ones. That's the only other one I could think of. How did that do at the box office? I think that didn't do very well, though, I thought. But it's a damn good fucking movie. Anyway, Akira. Yeah, you're probably right. Akira. What would they consider Pokemon? I was just going to say Pokemon. Yeah, Demon Slayer was another one that come out like a few years ago.
It has to be stuff like that. I can't imagine.
I would imagine so. I didn't look it up right now, but considering what you guys are saying in the chat, I bet that's the case. So yeah. And then an update on Chaos Sonic's Rumble rant chat. He sent in another Rumble chat here. Let me bring it up on stream. He says, Chaos Sonic says, I have a personal grudge against Zeb Wells because Zeb was the one who made Spider-Man a cuck in the mainstream comics and ruined his life because he is a white guy. So he's the guy that did all that stuff. I see.
Oh,
so he would have come in and ruined the, was he also the guy who ruined the Mary Jane wedding bit?
Yeah. There are so many writers that have ruined so many things. I can't keep track of them all.
That's my problem too.
Right. I can't remember this one, but its name sounds familiar. I've probably seen it on something bad.
Yeah. Demon Slayer made 5. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. God, if they'd have just released Godzilla in a much wider, bigger way, could have kicked the shit out of Demon Slayer. I'm sorry. It could have. They got to be kicking themselves in the ass right now. Gotta be. Daryl Brewer, thank you though for that. And we got that one. So we got Jason Webster's. Okay, here we go. We're caught back up. Pinochet's helicopter tour sends in $2, says LOL, too big to fail, aka sunken cost fallacy. Well, if you're talking about the Ray movie, I never said it was too big to fail, but I did talk about the sunken cost. But if you're talking about Disney or ESPN, they're worth more to somebody in some way to where they're not. This is the same thing with almost every studio, right? Because even like Warner Brothers and Skydance are salivating to get Paramount, even though Paramount is literally like a fish flopping on the fucking deck at this point, grasping for air, right? They literally are. Like, if nobody does anything and just leaves Paramount alone for like the next year or two, they would probably just file for bankruptcy and go into obscurity. That's how sad it would be, because they are running with nothing. They have nothing. They've made no movies that have made any money since Top Gun. Mission Impossible failed so horribly that I guarantee you that cost them dearly because of the amount of money they sunk into that bitch. So it's no wonder that Tom Cruise is jumping ship. I mean, he still technically is working for, but you know what I mean? Like, he's setting up shop over at Warner Brothers. Something's going on. I guarantee you within the next few years, Paramount won't exist as its own entity, just much like Fox doesn't exist anymore technically. So if that's what you mean, Pinochet. But anyway, Kalekioki sends in $5. Says, off topic, rumors say Aquaman 2 may break even. You guys think that's possible? Fuck no. January and February don't have much coming out. Just curious. Well, it'll be on video.
The thing, though. Yeah, there's two
less
sides
than a
to
month.
it. One is that you're going to have a bunch of pundits and entertainment journalists and stuff like that who don't understand the box office, who's going to say it has broken even. And I'm going to tell you exactly what they're going to do. They're going to look at the listed production budget, and then they're going to go and look at the box office, and when they have box office, and when they like match sufficiently, and they're going to say, oh, now it has broken even. What they're not going to do is take into effect all of the reshoots, which means that the total cost of the movie is significantly higher than the listed budget. And then they're going to do, so that's the first thing they're going to fail to take into account. And then they're also going to fail to take into account that in order to break even, the actual box office tally has to be 2.5 to 3 times higher than the actual production cost rather than the listed budget. Because of those things, you're going to have some people that's going to say it's going to break even, but in reality, no, it's not going to break even.
Plus, it took them 3 years to make this thing.
I will say that the movie is actually doing far better than I anticipated, but given what it cost, it is not doing well enough relative to the cost that went into making it. The return on investment is 0.
I actually expected more out of the general audience, because I expected the general audience not to be as caught up in the drama.
Well, the movie is it's kind of entertaining. I mean, it's mostly
it's doing okay, but it's doing better in places. I noticed where I wondered, because I looked at the box office, because it's doing much better internationally. And I got to imagine in most places outside of like the US, the UK, Australia, Amber Heard ain't much of a thing. Like, they don't even know, don't care, like, for the most part. So like, I think that's part of the reason it's probably playing well. And not only that, they're probably not keeping up with a lot of the changes that are going on. To them, it's just another movie to go see, because To us, it'd be like Godzilla -1 coming over. Now, I'm not comparing the quality of the films. I'm just saying, to them, it's like a novelty of, oh, let's go see the new American film, Aquaman 2. We saw the first one, right? Yeah.
It's also, it's not offensively, it's not a good movie, but it's not offensively bad.
Exactly.
Aquaman 2.
Exactly. There's nothing offensive in it. Unless you have paid attention to the Amber trial, if you're just looking at the movie itself, there's nothing offensive about it.
But it's pretty much dead in its run
very
because
little, at least.
they just announced the Blu-ray yesterday, and it comes out in the beginning of March, I think it is. So that means within the next 2 weeks or so, it'll probably be hitting streaming. I'm surprised I haven't heard the date yet. Normally by now I have. It might even be by next Tuesday because the Marvels and a few other things already have hit streaming. So that's the other thing that they're not taking into consideration, Kalecki, and we got to move on here, but this is something that Culture and I have brought up, and I think Valiant and others have, with this new way that they release movies so quickly to streaming. The studios used to get, the way it would work out is the studios would get the lion's portion of the box office the opening weekend. And Disney was one of the more notorious ones for getting like 60 to 70% of the box office, actually, which is quite a big share of the box office. But then as every week goes along, they get less and less and less, to the point where by the time you get to 5, 6, 7 weeks out when a movie's released, the theaters are getting more money and the studios are not. But now what the studios have done since COVID is they've turned around and they've started releasing these movies on streaming within 36, 45, or 90 days of when the movie comes out. And why those specific windows are important is if they release one of these movies on streaming within that 36 to 45 day window, guess what? They forfeit anything above 50% that they got on those opening weekends. Does that make sense to everybody here? So like, instead of getting the 60 to 70% break that they would have gotten before, they're literally getting only 50-50 across the board for that opening weekend, and then so on down the road. And what pisses the theaters off now is when they release those on video on demand, that takes away the screenings from the theaters, who normally would get more money from those screenings. So now they're getting upset on the other end. Now, movies like Top Gun and Barbie and certain other ones that held off for that 90 days, those deals still stayed in place. So Warner Brothers, for instance, got whatever deal they made with the theaters for the opening weekend of Barbie. Had, say, they made a deal for 65% of the box office. That deal was still in place because they managed to keep the movie off streaming for more than 90 days or whatever it was. That's how that works. It's a weird window now compared to what it used to be. But it's strange for somebody like us who've been around for a long time, because the way these movies used to come out was, the movie would come out, it would have a run in theaters for roughly about 2 months, and then it would go to secondary theaters, which are like small town theaters, or these $1.50 theaters or $2 theaters you would have in bigger cities and stuff like that, discount theaters and malls and stuff like that. And then finally, after about 6 months, it would hit video. And this all depended on its box office. And then a year after its release, it would hit like HBO or Showtime. And then 2 years after it was released, it would hit network television. They've killed all those ancillary markets now. So like, this is where we're at. This is the two places they have to make money, and that is in the theaters, and then when they hit video on demand anymore, because even the Blu-ray numbers and DVD numbers aren't what they used to be, because they've killed that market because of the fucking streaming shit. So sorry for going into that long thing, but as Andre was saying,
only Blu-ray 4K is doing well.
Yeah, sadly at this point, well, DVD is still selling pretty well too, but that's just because people haven't advanced. like they got confused by Blu-ray, and they're not even going to bother with 4K for the most part. But you have a lot of gamers in the younger generation that have adopted 4K, and film fanatics who have 4K is like the new Laserdisc, basically.
Right.
So, but it's doing better than Laserdisc ever did. You're right about that.
It's the only one that's not losing money out of year to year from all those DVD and Blu-rays. It's the only one that's increasing from year to year.
You're correct. You are correct. It's taking more of the market every time, because up until this last year, DVD had over 50% of the market. Now I think it's split 50% DVD, and then the rest is 4K and Blu-ray, with a larger portion for 4K. But anyway, DCB Titan says with $5 Canadian, and now the bomb factory is Disney and putting Lockheed Martin to shame, right? That is so true. Tennille says with $2, yay, I finally woke up in time for Midnight's Edge in the morning today. Well, glad to hear it, Tennille. I barely did. Jason Webster sends an Australian 10 and says, Steven Spielberg, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull set. Kathleen, I want caramel latte. George wants a flat white, no sugar, and Lawrence wants a tall cappuccino. Was Lawrence even around on the Crystal Skull? I don't know if he was, but either way. Maybe he was. Yeah, that's about the most she did on that movie. That's your point, and I get it. Mr. Tickle Trunk sends in 5 Canadian and says Connery was Scott playing an Egyptian. That's correct. Dressed Spanish, holding a Japanese sword. You are correct. He was a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude.
He was playing an Egyptian? I thought he was Spanish.
No, he's Egyptian, yes.
That
He's
is kind of funny.
Yes. Adam Wolford sends in 10 and says the only way to make Highlander a good series is to make the bad guys show up at the end of the movies and use the other Connor's enemies as the main in each movie. Yeah, basically just got to kind of spread it out more like they did in the series, right? And they also had various levels to the Immortals in the series as well. You had the Watchers and other things like that they can kind of get involved with, or they can just ignore if they want to, depending on how they want to handle this version of the franchise. There's a lot to play with, is the point. So I think it's ripe for the picking, and it never kind of got its chance to thrive. And those are the kind of things they should look into for remakes, I believe, in my opinion. ActionCom says, at Pauly, what is mortal death clause in actor contract? Kevin Costner allegedly has one for Tombstone. For Tombstone? Or do you mean Yellowstone? Moral death clause.
I think that I read about this. If he's gonna die, for some reason, Kevin Costner put in his contract that he gets to decide something about his fate.
This is part of what's causing a bit of the issue. You're right, Price. And Taylor Sheridan commented on this. Sorry, I had a brain fart there for a moment. He even said that he wouldn't even do this to the character, even out of spite for arguing with Kevin. So whatever happens to the character, it's not going to be like and he died off screen shit. They're trying to work with Kevin, but Kevin is being just damn near impossible from what it sounds like. And Kevin basically said it's probably going to end up going to court. So that tells me that whatever there's going on is he's not backing down and Taylor's not backing down. The studio's ready to move on, but they do have to finish this somehow. And I guarantee you Peacock is going to demand some kind of conclusion as well. For those who don't know, Peacock has the exclusive streaming rights to Yellowstone in the U.S. Just in the U.S. But,
once the show is done and there's sort of less excitement about it, I think that then Paramount can work out a deal with Peacock, no?
At that point, what's basically going to happen, and this is something I'd said, I think last year around this time when all this started kicking, well, not this time, but it was a little later in the year, when all this stuff started kicking off about spring or summer of last year, from what I was hearing is that's basically Paramount wasn't really all that worried about the show ending, because the beauty of it was if this show ends, they can just do a quote unquote spin-off with all of the main characters and put it on Peacock now, as long as it's considered a different show. Right.
But I agree with you that the spin-off allows them contractually to just say it's a different show. So then they'll put it on Paramount. But I even think that once they do that and all that stuff's going to remain on Peacock, they could probably work out a better deal with them to have it featured on Paramount as well. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know if they'll continue to work with Peacock or not, but because that's the thing is, from what I've heard, there was a lot of pissed off people that deal was made prior to Paramount. Well,
it was a shitty deal. I'm talking about the older episodes, the Yellowstone episodes.
Oh, they get those now. Actually, after so long, they get them. I think it's after 3 years they get them. So I think they got like the first 3 or so seasons, I think, on Paramount.
So at this point, Paramount, they have a lot to worry about, but not with that Peacock deal, which was crappy for them. But I guess they don't have to worry about that much anymore.
Because I think they're on there. Because after so long, they get them back. And then the problem is if they continue to make Yellowstone, it still has to go straight to Peacock. But once they end the proper show with Kevin Costner and then make it the new spinoff with basically all the same cast minus Costner.
How ridiculous. Yeah, that's what they're going to do.
It's going to be called, get this, 2024.
Are you serious?
I'm fucking dead serious.
Oh,
he's starting to just name them after the years they're in.
That's actually kind of clever, considering that they set up all the spinoffs with those numbers. Then 2024 works with that brand.
And he has another one also coming or in development with Costner's character, but it's the younger version that we've seen in the flashbacks. But I can't remember the year that one is. I think it's 1990 something. I can't remember what year, but whatever year that the years they keep flashing back to. So I think they're going to also do a spin-off show of that younger version of those characters as well. But anyway, that being said, yeah, I heard about this, so I don't think they're just going to have, and he died in a car accident or he died of a heart attack off screen. They won't do that. They've got to come to some kind of conclusion with this.
Can they CGI him? Are they allowed contractually to just say, here's a CGI Costner riding on a horse, he jumps the wrong way, falls off, and he's dead?
That's kind of, well, it's something like that is what I've heard they've been trying to work out with him, but he's being stubborn as fuck. Right, I guess basically they have tried working on, and this is just a rumor, guys, because this is what I've been told from my source, was that they tried working out some way of getting him there just for a couple days of shooting to finish off his bit. They tried talking him into shooting where he was at and then just doing, like you just said, like green screening something with the other cast members and stuff to put it where it needs to be, whatever. He is refusing to do anything right now. So it's like,
can they deep fake? Can they do a deep fake where they just
that? I don't think they legally can. That's where I think that the problem is with that. I don't know for sure on that, or they would have already probably by now, because that's what I've heard is holding everything up is him. So 2024 might turn into 2025 if he drags this out much longer.
At least, yeah.
And that's probably the best place we can move on from there. Sorry. We got to keep going, though. Tony Edwards sends in 5 and says, how does the Great Circle look better than the Dial of Destiny? Oh, Tony. I saw the trailer for this.
Mr. H.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
And did you see what I just posted here not too long ago on Twitter?
No.
We got one of the guys working on the game here.
Oh, what did he have to say in defense of Indiana?
It's not so
Jones
much to what he had to say, it's what he looks like.
Oh, okay.
It's like, of course, this is what he fucking looks like.
Oh my god. Okay, yeah, fine. Why am I not surprised?
We have the opportunity to tell Indiana Jones to modern audiences. I don't think I've ever heard Andre laugh like that. I don't think I've ever heard you laugh like that before.
It's yeah, that's Indiana Jones for that. I mean, it's wearing the uniform. He's using all the key phrases. It's fucking fantastic.
I'm sure you'll talk a little bit about this because you're headed over to Echo Base here real soon.
I am. I'm heading over to Echo Base right now. I have a prior engagement there, so I have to be dropping out. So,
but we're almost done here.
When the Tom and Price of Reason is finished here, then head on over to Paulie and the guys over at Midnight Jets Espanol, and head on over to Echo Base Network, where I will be talking about whatever they want to talk about.
I'm sure I'll pop over there, and if I don't even get a link, maybe. But we'll see. With that, thank you, Andre, and we'll see you soon. And I'll keep moving on with these super chats. We got a few more to go here.
Yeah, take care, everyone.
All right.
Bye, Andre.
Bye.
And thank you, Tony, as well. He says, enjoy the $5, you guys. Thank you so much. We got you again. Oh, I don't know about that. We love you guys. Don't worry about it. No worries there. Oliver Morgan says, Until Dawn is basically an interactive movie with 80s slasher dialogue and teens running from Wendigos. Okay, so it's kind of like that other slasher game I've played. I always forget the name of. Okay, I kind of get what it's like the Jason game and stuff like that. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you, Oliver. That's good to know. I kind of figured something like that. Either zombie game or something like that, yeah. Tennille sends in another 5 and says, if it was Disney, they'd find a way to get Queen Latifah to play Link.
Or Lizzo.
Oh, Lord.
Queen Latifah would already be a better choice considering what
I know, right? At least I could stand her. Tennille sends in another 5 and says, as much as I love Ryan Reynolds, my expectations are so low, I see dinosaur bones if I look up. Oh, that's low, my friend. That's low. Doll Life Dan sends in another 5 and says, in the 90s, there was a Street Fighter game. Oh, we got this one already. That's right. We did get this one already. Because we read into that when we were talking about the other stuff. Thank you again, Doll Life Dan. Adam Wolford sends in 2 and says, Until Dawn is about Wendigos trying to survive. Thank you again, Adam, for the update on that one. Then we got Paulus Plain, who sends in 200 Norwegian krona. says the woke culture appropriation of Japan, The Karate Kid and The Karate Kid 1984 film, the Japanese Karate Master, Pat Morita, The Karate Kid 2010 film, Chinese Kung Fu Master, Jackie Chan. There's a word for that. R. I think it means racism. But yeah, no, I'm not a fan of the Jackie Chan film, and I'm not a fan of what they're doing to combine the two here coming up here either.
Yeah, that seems like a slippery business decision.
Mm-hmm. Tennille says, but what will Bat Tom also do the mocapping? Well, of course he will. He's got to get involved, right? He'll do all aspects. STR Red Wolf sends in 5 and says, when are we going to get Midnight's Edge with the ride, the screenplay, the movie, the after school special, the merchandise, the musical? Well, Tuesday. I don't know. But that was funny, STR Red Wolf. Thank you for that. Taryn the Black is here, and he says, wasn't FF a Spirit Within made a decent amount? Final Fantasy? No, I think that actually lost money, if I'm not mistaken. Mostly just because it costs so damn much, if I remember correctly.
There was a Final Fantasy movie?
Oh yeah, it was it was one of the first CGI animated films.
I don't even remember it. It's weird. I like Final Fantasy, and I've never seen that.
They spent a shit ton of money to try and make it close to as at that time photo kind of realistic as they could. It's called Spirits Within. Yeah, it kind of got lost to the. It's not a very good movie. It's an interesting watch just for the visuals of it at the time, but like now I wonder if it even stand up.
It'll probably look like the video game.
Oh yeah, it definitely looks like and now it would definitely look like a cutscene. That's what I mean. Like PS5, PS4 graphics have kind of caught up to it almost. Well, Mars Needs Max liked it, but Marvern says it's a confusing movie. So yeah, I just found it kind of lackluster. Just kind of wasn't sure what it was trying to be. And when I think of Final Fantasy, I think of more of the fantastical kind of sword and sorcery meets a little bit of sci-fi-ish element. This was like on full-on sci-fi.
Oh.
Like it didn't even feel like Final Fantasy to me, but maybe I'm wrong because I was never a big Final Fantasy game fan. So I'm not a good barometer of it either. So, but no, it's out there. You should check it out. Maybe
I will. I like the game. That's why I was surprised I've never seen the movie.
Yeah, maybe you'll get more out of it than I will, just because I wasn't a big fan of the game itself. So, let me see what it did box office wise, because that came out when I had my video store, and I remember it was kind of a dud. Alec Baldwin did a voice in it, and he just got charged with manslaughter. Yeah, it had a $137 million budget in 2001, and it only made $85 million at the box office.
Oh.
Yeah.
I feel like Baldwin keeps getting charged over and over again.
Well, they were just talking to Gutierrez, the armorist, and they basically made a veiled threat against her. They're like, she can not tell us how the bullet got in there, or she can tell us, but if she doesn't tell us, we're going to pursue all the charges. It's basically what they said in so many words. So I wonder if that's extension from what's going on there. So anyway, I got to get caught up with it, so I'm not going to comment on it too much right now. It's one of those things that seems to keep going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth.
One thing is for sure, though, is that I think that obviously his career will never be the same from that incident, and this will probably be an ongoing process for years.
I think you're right. I don't think he'll end up doing any real jail time out of it. I think he'll have to pay a lot of money out. You're right. His career is pretty much dead.
That's why he's doing conventions now.
Oh yeah, I saw that. You're right. Because he's going to be, yeah, he's okay. He's safe. We can have him at a convention, but not Gina Carano.
Not Gina Carano. But I also wondered who even wants to see him at a convention. If we're being honest, I wouldn't be so excited to see him there.
Well, I mean, if you're a guy, your odds are pretty good of living. But I mean,
yeah, I mean, I don't think that he's going to do anything bad at the convention, but it's like, are people so excited about him now? It's sort of a period of time that I think there isn't a lot of excitement surrounding him.
You're right. I think this would be a time to lay low. In fact, I've said this from the start. If he had a good lawyer, this lawyer should have told him to shut up in the first place. Because honestly, from my understanding, without reading the more recent charge, now again, this is without reading the more recent charge, my understanding before is the only reason he was still in any kind of sort of trouble is because he had conflicting reports that he had given to the officers or the detectives or whatever that were investigating, had he just said what happened or whatever, or just kept his mouth shut to a point, he probably wouldn't even be facing any issues. Because as I've said before, the last few times this has happened, nobody has gone to prison for it, right? It usually gets kind of chalked up. Yeah, that and the other incident where it actually happened to be the actor himself who inflicted the wound on accident. But the only other time anybody has died and anybody got any trouble for it was when they were doing the Allman Brothers movie that never got finished. And that was the, I think a set decorator it was, or assistant director. I can't remember what she was going to grab, because they didn't have the and this is the only reason they got in trouble for it. This is the weird thing. Nobody would have gotten in trouble for anything that had happened had they actually had the permits. But what it was is they were shooting on a train track. They didn't have the permits to do so. And they had a bed draped over the train track for a dream sequence, and a live train was coming. And she didn't get the bed out of the way in time is what happened, and got caught up in the train. So they got charged, but it was only because they didn't have the permits. See, because that's what I've tried telling people before, because there's a lot of people who are like, well, it's a gun thing, and he had the gun, and it's like, you guys are looking at it from a perspective that it's not going to be considered in a court of law, because this is just a different kind of situation. And I know it sounds weird to some people, especially gun people, but it doesn't work the same way.
The movie said, I guess they have their own permits and rules, but
it does. It's weird.
Think Alec Baldwin, I'm not his lawyer, but the second that happened, it's like you said, if he would have said nothing, just zero, I don't know how it happened. I was
doing that interview and shit hurt him.
Yeah, I don't know how it happened. I'm so confused. I don't know how it happened. And then you don't cry on television. You don't be all arrogant on television. Just shut up.
Yeah, we should not be hearing a peep out of Alec Baldwin for the last year.
Right.
But that being said, Jason Webster points out that action comedy Bayside Shakedown, is the highest grossing live action film of all time. Okay. With US 115, Godzilla will pass it, especially after their revival weekend with the minus color. So yeah, no, I agree. That's interesting. I didn't even think about the live action factor. So there you go. Chaos Sonic sends in another Rumble rant and says Zeb Wells is also head writer of the future Marvel Zombie show. Oh, goody. Not a fan of that stuff. Not a fan. Taryn the Black says, I meant wasn't on my last super chat. No problem, Taryn. I think hopefully we got it just the same. Then we got Pinochet's Helicopter Tours sending in 5 and says, however, Square Enix got their animation systems for free due to them taking a wash on Spirits Within. Systems used are still around to this day. Well, there you go. So they amortized that into their own usage. Maybe that was the plan all along. Yeah. With that, we are caught up. So I want to thank everybody here today. I know this is, we lost our whole panel besides me and Price. Price, go ahead and plug your channel real quick.
Price of Reason at YouTube. It's just the way it's listed here. And then I have a Price of Reason live channel where lately we've been discussing some older shows like Quantum Leap. And on my own channel, there's news and reviews and stuff like that. So you could check it out.
Awesome sauce. And you can also find Price on Midnight's Edge After Dark on Tuesdays and Thursdays usually. And yeah. And are you on the Sunday show as well sometimes? I think so.
I've been there before, but that's kind of it happens on occasion.
All right. Well, we got to get you back on there because we do the list now on Sundays. So I don't remember if I even added you to that group. I should add you if I haven't. But anyway, that's behind the scenes crap. Go check out Paulie's watching Zorro, and go check out Andre on Echo Base Network. And until next time, kids, it's time for Koalas in the Rain.
Koalas in the rain, koalas in the rain, no fucks given, koala, koalas in the rain, koalas in the rain, no fucks given, koala.
Oh wait, hold up. We got one more $2 Rumble rant from Chaos Sonic. Sorry about that, buddy. It says India's dead, Jim. Yeah, and this is in response to the Indiana Jones game bit. Sorry about that, guys. And sorry, Chaos Sonic, but I just saw that. Thanks again to all the mods for all your help today. I appreciate it. I've been sixless since she's having some technical issues, so I do appreciate all the extra help. So thanks again, guys. Take care of yourselves, and here's Koalas in the Rain.
Koalas in the rain, koalas in the rain, no fucks given.